teleporting through time on a Tesla-derived technology. Now, this is Nikola Tesla, not Elon Musk's Tesla. He says that he can identify himself as a boy in a famous 1863 photograph of the crowd at Gettysburg. A photograph that looks like a boy from 1863. So let's show you guys that picture. Welcome back to Paranormal Directive 13. I'm your host, Matt, and if you're here for part 1, what you sat through, the ship, the chair, the boys, the tunnel, the thing in the corridor, the axe, is the single most famous legend in one of the strangest stories in modern America. A story that begins with a real military base, real Cold War hardware, and a real ugly history of government experiments. And then it keeps walking, well past the edge of what any hardware could ever probably actually do. All the way into time travel, mind control, underground cities, and men who claim to remember being someone else. This is the Montauk Project, and it is genuinely tricky because unlike a lot of what we covered, this legend comes with a paper trail to it. And some of that paper trail is airtight and verifiable and a little disturbing. And some of it is testimony from people who say they lived double lives and they only remembered it under hypnosis. And a lot of it, the best known parts, the parts that ended up inspiring one of the biggest shows on television, comes from a small stack of paperback books that the authors themselves told you to read as science fiction or nonfiction. And that is their words, not mine. Now, fresh with a wardrobe change and a week of contemplating under their belts, Weirder After Dark is back for part 2. So, guys, welcome back.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Thanks for having us. Yeah, ready to go. Part 2. Monologue. We listened to it, Matt, this week as we were contemplating, and 10 out of 10, man. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I know I said this earlier, but I think that was probably the best episode I've heard you do so far. That was some of the best writing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. So I'm thinking of using that format for a lot of stories moving forward. Do like that real strong narrative to open everything and then go into what we're doing today.
Yeah.
I think it kind of immerses people a little more in it.
I like the cliffhanger. It was just like done.
The ending of it.
More.
Yeah.
I want more.
Yeah.
I was going to put
a podcast. That was a book. The way you wrote
yeah. Thank you. That's what I was going for. And I was going to put Sean's outro there that I had him record. And then as I'm listening back, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to leave it right where Sean says, we're not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get more.
So no, we are going to do that.
At least for a week.
Yep. I liked it.
So for tonight, we're going to do what we always do. We are going to separate everything, what historical record proves, what witnesses have claimed, what the conspiracy community built on top of those claims, and where all of it drifts off into pure speculation. Everything you just experienced goes into boxes 2, 3, and 4. Almost none of that belongs in box 1, which is the historical record. And so we're going to sort through all that tonight. And there's a second thing we're going to do. So underneath the fact checking, a story like the one you just heard doesn't fall out of the sky whole. Somebody builds it, one piece at a time over years, one claim bolted onto the last. So as we go, I don't just want to check which parts are true. I want to show you like where they intersect and where they came to be the next piece of the story. So by the time we're done, you should be able to take this legend apart and figure out what parts are true and what parts are fiction.
I need that.
Yeah.
I really do.
I like that.
Wait, before we dive back in, do we get answers at all towards like what happened after the moment, the cliffhanger
Yeah.
for movie?
The silence.
You'll get some answers.
Okay, cool.
I need answers.
Yeah, I've never heard this, Matt. So like I was like locked in. Like,
So Duncan is from the 1940s, right?
Mhm.
When was the machine tower thing built?
So Camp Hero was built in the 40s during World War II.
Okay.
And then after the war, they built the the big radio tower,
I was
which
trying
I'll
to
show you a
figure-
picture of the tower and stuff.
I was trying to figure out which one came first, Duncan or
Machine.
the machine.
Technically, Duncan was born before the machine. Now, what does that actually mean in a time travel story? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
You're on some chicken and egg shit, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
He's
It's
like,
like, did they
I'm going to figure this mystery out.
build it knowing Duncan was going to exist? And he was like the key to unlocking the full potential to tap into the power of this thing? Or was
Possibly.
it just like a chance?
Mm.
Like it just happened that way?
Because they did say over and over, once Duncan got there, that
Mhm.
he was the guy they've been waiting for.
Yeah, like they knew.
So,
Maybe they knew someone was coming. They didn't know who. Because they also
Until
said
he
they,
got
they
there.
had been getting tons of readings,
Yeah.
and this was the strongest reading
They
ever.
were
right.
time traveling using people looking for him and then pulled him into their time.
So that would lead you to think that one of those boys that they were using found him and they were like they went to a different time.
Let's find out.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got questions too, but I was like, we're probably going to get there.
Probably,
so I'm gonna sit
and
on
he'll
it.
probably answer it in his
Yeah.
storytelling. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Now, let's start with the place we just spent an hour inside, because the base is real. The first true thing about it is the eeriest. So if we go back to 1942, the World War II is on, German U-boats are working the Atlantic coast so close to American beaches that people on Long Island can actually sometimes see the glow of burning tankers on the horizon. The eastern tip of the island, Montauk Point, is a windswept spit of bluffs and scrub and one very old lighthouse commissioned by George Washington himself back in 1792. And it's suddenly one of the most strategically important corners of the country. So the United States Army builds a fort there and names it Camp Hero, after Major General Andrew Hero Jr., the Army's chief of coast artillery in the late 1920s. The first detail that matters for the rest of the night, because it's true and it's documented and it's genuinely a little eerie. The Army built Camp Hero as a lie. Not a metaphorical lie, but an architectural one, to hide the base from German reconnaissance. They disguised the whole installation as a sleepy New England fishing village. The barracks were built to look like shingled Cape Cod homes with decorative shutters that didn't open. And the gymnasium was dressed as a stone church with a false steeple. The mess halls and headquarters read, from the air, as an innocent seaside town. But underneath that friendly disguise sat the real base. There's 3 heavily fortified coastal artillery batteries, Battery 112, Battery 113, and Battery Dunn. Each held 2 enormous 16-inch naval guns inside of earth-covered concrete casemates. They were capable of throwing a shell weighing over 2,000 pounds more than 25 miles out to sea. And Battery 216 held smaller, faster 6-inch guns for anything trying to slip in close. Each battery was its own underground fortress. There were shell rooms, magazines, plotting rooms, diesel generators deep underground. So when the legend tells you that this place was engineered to look like one thing on the surface while being something else entirely underneath, that part is not legend. The United States Army did that on purpose in reinforced concrete before a single conspiracy theorist was born. Well, I don't know about that. There was probably conspiracy theorists in the 40s.
That's so cool that there's some like really great basis to this story, though. So that's awesome.
Right.
Love that.
Not just that, it's a lot of work. They're not just going to let it go to waste.
Mm.
They're going to do something else. They're going to repurpose those buildings.
Right. So the story didn't invent the mask covering the base. It just kind of inherited it. After the war, the guns fell quiet. So in 1947, the heavy batteries were deactivated, but the Cold War was already forming, and it needed exactly this kind of high, lonely point of land. So in 1951, Camp Hero came back as an anti-aircraft artillery training station. Soldiers on the bluffs firing at radio-controlled target planes over the ocean. That era ended in December 1957 with Operation Changeover, when manual guns gave way to the new guided missiles and the Air Force took over completely. Montauk became a set of eyes, essentially. And this is where the piece of hardware at the center of the whole legend shows up. In December 1960, the military finished building an AN/FPS-35 long-range early warning radar. The dish measured 126 feet across, weighed about 70 tons, and sat on an 85-foot, 5-story concrete tower packed with vacuum tubes and drive machinery. It fed Soviet bomber tracks into the SAGE network, semi-automatic ground environment, which vectored interceptors and batteries onto targets automatically. So, a spec to kind of file away. The radar operated in the ultra-high frequency band, between 420 and 450 megahertz. So remember that number, 420 to 450, because it comes back when we start talking about how this radar could mess with the human mind. Now, if you want to see what this tower looks like, let's pull it up. This is the tower.
That's not what I was envisioning.
Wow, yeah.
And this spins. This rotates. Or at least it used to rotate.
I don't know what I was picturing, but wasn't it.
And this is slightly curved. So I'll find you another one. If you look at it from a different angle. Oh, here's a good one.
Like the antenna on the top of it?
Yeah.
I say, it kind of looks like bird wing.
Kind of. So if you see it curves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a half circle.
Yeah.
And I was just sending high frequency waves out in 360 looking for Russian bombers.
Allegedly. Everything's allegedly.
Or was it always looking for Duncan?
Good question.
Or Gettysburg.
Duncan.
Or Mars. Or aliens. We'll get to that.
Whoa.
Don't worry, there's aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry, there's aliens.
We knew there'd be aliens.
Yeah. Come on.
There's got to be aliens.
Directive 13. There's gotta be aliens.
And they're not the James Franco aliens.
Wait, what?
You didn't see that? So James Franco did a video a couple of weeks ago saying he found someone in his garage. He's been contacted by aliens.
Yeah.
And then he showed the video, and it is the worst possible thing I've ever seen. And I'm just very confused. Because I didn't really believe him. I thought maybe he might have seen something, but then when I saw the video, I was like, okay, he's doing a bit of some kind because this is clearly fake. But what is the end game?
Got a movie.
But he hasn't been in a movie in years because his sexual assault charges.
He just he's trying to feel relevant.
And he locked it behind a paywall. He locked it behind a paywall on TikTok. And it's like, dude, how much money are you really making? It's the only video he has behind a paywall. I can't imagine he made that much money from it.
Drugs, Matt. Probably drugs.
There's something else going on there.
True. I mean, when you're a multimillionaire who can't find work, what else you got to do?
The drugs.
A bunch of drugs. The base ran until March 1981, when Sage was declared obsolete. Which I don't like that sentence because my daughter's name is Sage. But
now she knows.
The Sage semi-automatic ground environment was declared obsolete and the station was shut down. The property went to the General Services Administration. And then between 1993 and 1995, the Army Corps of Engineers came back through an environmental cleanup program, DERP FUDs.
No, that can't be real.
Yeah, that's not real.
FUDs.
DERP-FUDS. Defense
Fuds.
Environmental Restoration Program for formerly used defense sites. Derp FUDS.
If I ever get an animal, Derp Fuds. That's its name.
Derp Fuds, that's its name.
Yeah, this is
All
my
right.
cat, Derp Fuds.
It's fantastic. And it produced a paper record that is going to matter enormously later on. Contractors hauled out 53 transformers full of toxic PCBs, sealed 10 open manholes, dug out 2,500 cubic yards of petroleum-soaked oil, and permanently sealed the crumbling World War II bunkers and deep gun wells. And when they sealed those bunkers, they documented exactly what was down there. And what was down there was standard tactical military structure, single level and double level, not 12 levels, not a mile deep. So we'll get into the 12 levels. So today, the site is Camp Hero State Park. You can walk there. Families do. But the ground around the old Sage Tower and the rotting barracks is still fenced off and restricted. Officially, because the structures are unstable and full of chemical hazards. That's the official reason why they're blocked off. But
It doesn't look like she believes it.
Yeah,
I don't
just
find it.
yeah.
I mean, it looked rusty as all hell.
well, yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
old, but
yeah.
I'm sure they want to keep people out for other reasons.
Right. So now we're going to leave the documented record and we're going to step into a second box, witness testimony. Before Camp Hero became a tidy state park, it spent years as an abandoned, half-secured ruin, and that made it a magnet for the urban explorer, people who will slip past old fences with a flashlight and a camcorder to see what the rest of us aren't supposed to. There's a building locally to me that I want to do that's supposed to be super haunted, but I guess there's a ton of security.
Do it.
I'm probably gonna. What's the worst what is the worst that happen? I get a misdemeanor trespassing
Yeah.
charge that
Yeah.
gets thrown out in court.
Patreon will pay your bail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need subscribers on that first.
Just throw a TikTok out.
I bet you I could. I could go on TikTok and be like, I got arrested exploring this place. I got to go fund me, pay my
Instead
bail.
of your one call, you do a one TikTok post.
Can I do a live stream?
Yeah.
I do one live stream for jail. Two names come up again and again. One is Christopher Garantano. He's a filmmaker who would later make a documentary about all of this. And the other is Brian Minnick. And Minnick deserves more than passing mention because he's arguably the most grounded, least supernatural witness in the entire story. He's a man with a camera and a lot of nerve who explored the base before it became a park and shot hours of interior footage. He self-published a book about it called Montauk is Strange. And his archive of...
Great
All right.
name.
It's good.
Right
great
to the
name.
point.
His archive of footage would later become, in the words of one investigation, a major breakthrough. He's the kind of witness the legend actually needs because he isn't selling you time travel. He's just telling you, this is what I saw here. So what the explorers describe is unsettling in a very concrete way. Minnick reported heavy iron doors set into the floors of above-ground buildings. Doors that appeared to open onto lower levels not in any public record. And that was in Edward Cameron's story. There was doors in the floor. Explorers photographed an institutional graffiti on the interior walls. The most famous, and the one that shows up on every retelling, was 3 words found inside a sealed utility room. Stranger, help me. And that photo, I cannot find.
Unsettling sounding.
Let's look again. Let's look again. Maybe you guys will be my luck to find the... No, let's ask ChatGPT. Find me the stranger help me photo. Go. Stranger help me graffiti is real. It's one of the most recognizable images of Camp Hero. Best sources. Road Trippers article. Open it here. Boom. Camp Hero State Park. No trespassing, danger, warning. It's not on here. I want to show you guys this. I do have other pictures of the graffiti, but I wanted to find that specific one. I looked earlier when I was at work this morning, but I'm just not finding
Looking
it.
too, and I can't
Yeah, I'm
find
doing
it.
the same thing.
I find mention of it in a ton of articles, but
Even that's strange. That the internet won't let you look at that picture.
The
Right.
machine's alive, stopping us.
See if there's a warning. You could get Lyme disease there. So here's some photos of the graffiti.
Did you say graffiti?
Graffiti.
Graffiti.
Criminalize golf. I don't understand what that means.
Okay.
I like golf.
Yeah.
Mayo so valid. I don't like mayo.
I like mayo.
Here's the tower. You imagine climbing up to this tower to spray paint it?
At least, yeah, that's a lot of work.
That'd be cool. And then this is the one I thought was the Stranger Help Me, but I don't see it anywhere in here. But this is inside the building.
Spooky looking.
It is.
Really strange.
We should go.
We should. It's about halfway for both of us. I think you guys are a little closer than me. Well, I don't know, because you got to go all the way down into New York to come back down the island, unless you took a ferry across from Connecticut.
We'll kayak.
There you go. There's sharks in that water.
That's true. At least stay on land.
They described interior walls covered in elaborate psychedelic murals. But the detail that turns it from vandalism into a genuine question is that according to Minnick's footage, the painting was professionally masked. There's no overspray on the ceilings, there's no overspray on the floors, and whoever painted these patterns taped the room off first, the way you would do a real job, not the way that someone trespassing and tagging is going to do. Minnick says he turned up paperwork for large food orders delivered to the base in the late 1980s, years after its official 1981 shutdown. Large food orders to a base that was supposed to be empty. But in fairness, there are ordinary explanations for these. Abandoned military sites attract artists and squatters and paintballers, and Stranger Help Me could be anyone with a marker and a sense of humor and theater.
Fair.
Food order paperwork could be misdated, misfiled, or cleanup contractors who were there working after it shut down ordering food for the base. But these are real physical anomalies at the heart of the legend. And any honest account is going to put them on the table. Something got painted in that base by someone who taped off the trim first. That is true. Who did it is up for debate. Now, the third box is the folklore. So long before anyone published a word about mind control or time tunnels, Montauk Point already had a reputation. The isolation, the camouflaged architecture, the giant dead radar dish standing over the trees like a monument. It bred stories. And the oldest and most persistent local rumor held that the radar tower you could see was only the tip of the iceberg. That beneath it lay a secret 12-level underground fortress running for miles under the ocean floor, connected by ancient tunnels all the way to the historic Montauk Manor Hotel, and that when the military left in 1981, they didn't just lock the doors, they flooded the whole subterranean complex with solid concrete to entomb whatever and whoever was still down there. And that's the corridor that we just walked in that movie, in its original form. And that would explain, too, why people who have gone there have said it doesn't go down 12 floors. It only goes down 1 or 2. If they filled it with concrete, it's going to look like a concrete floor.
Yeah, and you're never going to be able to get down there if they filled it with concrete. There's no evidence left.
Then there's the dish itself. The AN/FPS 35 has been rusted solid and mechanically dead since 1981. But visitors report over and over that it seems to point in a different direction on different days. Believers take that as proof that the base is still alive below, still running on hidden drive motors, still turning the dish to broadcast something. And there is an explanation to why the dish appears to move, but we'll get to that in a little bit. These modern rumors braided into much older ones that the pirate Captain Kidd buried treasure in Money Pond near the lighthouse, and that the land was sacred to the Montauk people, and that this point had always drawn strange attention. And then later writers stitched all of it together and claimed Kidd hadn't found gold at all, that he'd found a natural tear in space and time, and the Montauk rituals were meant to appease whatever came through it. So that's kind of the folklore around it. Now, could you imagine Captain Kidd finding a time portal? So you got a pirate jumping through time to like 2180 or back to Gettysburg, or that's wild to me. Just a pirate showing up.
It's taken a fun turn. I like it. I dig it. Space pirates were there, like Time Warp pirates.
So now this raises the real question the film never asks. Where does the story actually begin? Not in 1943 on a ship. It begins in 1984 on foot in the wreckage. A Long Island electronics engineer named Preston Nichols walks up to the abandoned base at Camp Hero and slips inside. He did not stumble on it by accident. By the early 1980s, Nichols was already a fixture in a subculture called the psychotronics movement. People convinced the government was beaming thoughts into human heads with radio waves. Some of them reportedly wearing metal pots on their heads to keep the microwaves out, much like I do to keep out the 5G.
Yes.
Naturally. Nichols said he'd been chasing a mysterious mind-interfering signal around Long Island with a mobile receiver, and that the trail led him, needle swinging, straight to the dead radar tower at the end of the island, and then inside.
Can you just imagine a guy like driving
With a radar detector.
Yeah.
Got the lobster pot.
Yeah.
I've seen Stranger, not to reference the show, I've seen stranger things happen.
Yeah, that's fair.
You are on Long Island, so.
Yeah, I found my Halloween costume for next year.
Preston Nichols.
Yeah.
Gold.
The three of us
Now-
are going to get them.
That's all I need.
I was going to say that's all that matters.
Now think about what a man like that will find in a place like that. There's no lights. The windows are gray with salt. There's water standing in the low rooms, wiring hanging from the ceilings like torn nerves. There's debris underfoot. You have a man moving through it alone with a flashlight. A man who already believed before he set foot inside that machines could reach into minds. He finds confirmation. He finds a chair or the memory of a chair. He finds rooms that feel wrong, and he finds in the ruin of an ordinary decommissioned radar station the exact shape of the thing he had already carried in his head. And 8 years later, in 1992, that shape became a paperback book. The legend of the Montauk Project does not start with a wormhole. It starts with a lonely man and a flashlight in a wet concrete room. And everything you heard in the first half is what grew out of that. So everything in the first half, part one, if you want to call it that. The ship, the brothers, the chair, the boys, the tunnel, the beast, all of that arrives feeling like one story, told by one voice, handed down whole. But it isn't, and it never was. The Montauk Project is not a single story. It is a building put up over roughly 30 years by a small number of people, each of whom showed up carrying a few more bricks. And the revealing thing that tells you most about what this legend actually is that you can still see some of the seams. You can stand inside the finished cathedral and point to exactly where one man's work ends and the next man's begins. So before we test the claims, let's meet the builders of the story in the order in which they arrived. So year zero, Preston Nichols. We just met this man in the ruins. His name was Preston Nichols, and he is, for our purposes, year zero. Okay, this is the start of the Montauk legend. He's the ground the entire modern legend is poured on. Born on Long Island in 1946, Nichols was a real electronics engineer with real credentials who really did work for defense contractors in the area, Airborne Instruments Laboratories and Bendix among them. He knew radios, he knew antennas, and he understood in genuine technical depth how the hardware of the electromagnetic world actually worked. And that competence is the load-bearing wall of everything that follows. Because when Nichols described a machine, he described it like an engineer. Part numbers, cooling systems, frequencies, and that specificity is exactly what made the unbelievable sound like testimony. By his own account, Nichols came to Montauk sideways through an obsession. Before Camp Hero, he was already deep in the psychotronics movement. There was the fringe conviction that the government was beaming thoughts into human minds by radio. Today, they would say 5G and all sorts of other ways, Project Bluebeam and all this stuff. It hasn't died off. People still think the government is beaming thoughts into our heads. He said he has been chasing a mysterious mind-interfering signal around Long Island with a mobile receiver, and that trail led him to the abandoned radar tower at Camp Hero, and then inside. And there, in the ruin, over the years that followed, he said the memories began to surface. That he had not merely found this place, but that he had worked there at night under mind control as the assistant technical director of a secret program. His memory was wiped clean at the end of every shift, and he recovered those memories, he said, the way everyone in this story recovers them, through regression hypnosis in the late 1980s.
Yep. Every one of our stories.
Oh, it's all of them.
Regression.
All of them.
Yep.
And then this guy wrote a book about everything that he found. Okay.
It's just funny. Like, every story, your mind gets wiped. The only way to find it is hypnotic regression.
Yep.
And then you write a book.
And then you write a book.
Yeah.
But didn't in one of the future Men in Black, not the first Men in Black movie, but Men in Black 2 or 3, didn't they have a reverse neuralizer? Or am I thought they had something that could put your memories back.
Yep.
Oh yeah, because then they did that to the girl who became the agent. I'm pretty sure.
I thought so. Yeah, they wiped her memory of being an agent, but
Yeah.
something like that.
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't.
Can't they do? Maybe that's just hypnotic regression in a pen.
For
That
real.
works.
For
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was deep. You gotta invent that, dude. You know how rich you'll be?
So in 1992, he put it in a book, The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, co-written with a man calling himself Peter Moon and published by a tiny press, Skybooks, that existed largely just to publish this book. And it found an audience, the ufology crowd, the convention circuit, the late night radio faithful, because it did something most conspiracy books didn't. It read like an engineer's confession. There was cool, technical, specific stuff. And it was bolted to a real, genuinely camouflaged military base that anyone could drive out and look at. So, what Nichols brought, and it's more modest than what the legend became. Nichols introduced Project Phoenix, the claim that MKUltra never ended, that it moved to Camp Hero and went electromagnetic. He introduced the Montauk Chair, which is the helium-cooled mind machine we watch Duncan get strapped into. He introduced the Sage radar as a weapon against minds and the broadcasting of engineered terror and compliance over the town. He introduced the Beast, Junior, was the nickname for it, which is the creature that supposedly rampaged on August 12th, 1983, when they forced them to chop the cables with the axe. And then he tied in Project Stargate, the real documented government remote viewing program. And he recasted it as the public cover story for the darker work at Montauk. So Project Stargate is real. Project Phoenix, maybe. MKUltra was real. Junior, the beast that showed up, that in other stories sounds remarkably like a Bigfoot. That I don't know. I have no evidence of the mysterious Montauk Bigfoot.
It's real, Matt. Come on.
Speaking of,
part makes
did
sense.
you hear about the Bigfoot body that Snake Stewart found in the Adirondacks?
No.
So there's this guy, his name's Snake Stewart. And he found this Bigfoot body in the Adirondacks in just west of Old Forge, New York. Old Forge, New York is where I go camping every summer. And I will be in August this year.
All right.
And I was
Matt's
telling my
going
wife, I was
Bigfoot
like,
hunting.
it's like, I knew there was Bigfoot. So I've looked
Yes.
every year. I've never seen one, but I knew they were there. So
Doing a live show.
I could feel it.
I am. I'm gonna do
48
a live
hours of
stream
me just
Bigfoot hunt,
walking through the woods looking for a Bigfoot body.
looking for knocking on trees.
Yeah, get your Bigfoot call.
Too bad you
Don't
get
get
no
me going.
service. So I'll
There's a Bigfoot mating call.
Don't get me going.
Last year I went looking for skinwalkers. I found nothing. I tripped on a rock and hit my face. But I did get 2 million views on YouTube. So
Yeah,
it
it's
was
worth
worth
That
it.
was a win.
Here is a thing to keep in your mind. The whole point of watching a legend get built. In Nichols' original telling, the story was far smaller than the one you experienced in part 1. At its core, it was a mind control story. A secret program, a radar, a chair, a psychic, a monster, and a shutdown. There was, as yet, no vanished battleship, no two brothers falling through 40 years, no Edward Cameron. The engine of part 1, the time travel, the Philadelphia experiment, the entire human heart of the thing, was not at first Nichols' story at all. That arrived with the next man. Now, if Nichols poured the foundation, then Al Bielek raised the cathedral on top of it. And he did it by his own account because of a movie. Al Bielek was on paper an ordinary man, an electronics contractor born in 1927. And then in 1988, he sat down and watched a 1984 science fiction film called The Philadelphia Experiment, a modest Hollywood picture about a sailor thrown forward through time when a Navy ship vanishes in a 1943 invisibility experiment. And in the dark of that theater, Bielek later said something came loose. Watching the actor on the screen, he did not think, what a good film. He thought, this happened to me. I was there. I am the man on that ship. He walked out convinced he was not Al Bielek at all, but Edward Cameron, a Navy physicist who had served aboard the USS Eldridge during the real Philadelphia experiment of 1943. And here's where the two men's stories fuse into one. Bielek had read Nichols' book. He absorbed the Montauk material, the chair, the 1983 project, and he supplied the one missing piece that turned Nichols' local mind control story into a saga spanning 40 years and a hole torn in time. Bielek's claim that as the Eldridge vanished in 1943, he and his brother Duncan Cameron leapt from the deck and instead of hitting the water, fell through a rip in space-time and landed at Camp Hero in 1983. Pulled forward to help shut down the very project Nichols had described. In a single stroke, the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project became the same story, 40 years apart, welded together by two brothers falling through a gap between them. Which means that nearly everything that made part 1 a film, rather than a lecture about a radar, came from Al Bielek. He introduced the Philadelphia experiment connection. He introduced Edward Cameron, which is himself. He introduced Duncan Cameron, the psychic engine of the chair, his own brother across 2 lifetimes. He introduced the jump, the fall through time, the arrival in 1983, the elderly von Neumann waiting in the doorway. He introduced the time tunnels, the trip to a Civil War battlefield, the journeys to Mars, the empty city in the far future. If you strip Bielek out of the legend, you are left with Nichols' smaller story, a creepy base, a mind-controlled chair, and a monster. No ship, no brothers, no time travel. So almost the entire emotional spine of the Montauk Project is Al Bielek's contribution, recovered, he said, in a movie theater in 1988. And that is why the two names you know so well, Edward and Duncan Cameron, sit at the dead center of the mythology, because they're not figures Nichols dug out of the base. They are the identities Bielek assigned to himself and his brother, the roles that let one ordinary contractor step into the middle of history. Duncan became the indispensable psychic, and Edward became the eyewitness who had lived it all. The whole human drama of part 1, the brother holding on, the anchor, the man out of his own time, is the architect of Al Bielek's recovered memory. So, if Nichols laid the foundation and Bielek raised the walls, then Stuart Swerdlow painted the ceiling and covered it in stars and aliens and children. Swerdlow's way in was different from the other two. So he did not claim to be a scientist or an officer. He claimed to be a victim, specifically one of the Montauk Boys, which are the thousands of boys and young men he said were taken off the streets and brought down into the base, subjected to trauma-based programming designed to shatter a young mind and build controllable alter personalities in the wreckage. It is the darkest strand in the entire legend, and it's the one you felt Edward recoil from in part 1. And it is, more or less, entirely Stuart Swerdlow's contribution. Swerdlow took the mythology somewhere neither Nichols nor Bielek had gone. He introduced the Montauk Boys and the child experimentation. He turned trauma-based mind control from a side effect into a systemic program with thousands of victims. He deepened the alien involvement, introducing the Reptilian Draconians, who, in his telling, oversaw the programming and recasting the base as a joint human-alien facility. Told you there was aliens.
Hell yeah.
It's about time.
Sean's favorite part of every story.
There's no good story without aliens.
2 hours in with Matt, and we finally get to aliens.
Yeah, disappointing.
It was a long time.
Disappointing.
I know. And he introduced an entire mystical psychic cosmology, including a system he called the language of hyperspace, which is a supposed symbolic language of the mind. Where Nichols gave you engineering and Bielek gave you time travel, Swerdlow gave you a universe, a sprawling, alien, esoteric framework in which Montauk was only one node in a cosmic story about human consciousness. And his story landed. It's because it answered a hunger the other two hadn't. Nichols explained the machine. Bielek explained the history. Swerdlow explained you. Why you might feel broken, or watched, or different, and gave that feeling a cause and a cosmology and a community. It's worth saying that critics have charged Swerdlow with lifting much of that language of hyperspace from a blind clairvoyant named Marianne Johnston. The same pattern that runs through this entire story, where the cosmic revelation keeps turning out to have an earthly, uncredited origin, frame it as the accusation it is, not a proven fact. But keep the pattern in mind. Now, something I just thought of that I didn't notice earlier. Have you heard of the GATE program?
Yes. Yep.
So the CIA GATE program was a
Honestly, I
program
have
where
not.
alleged... So, you know, in school when you used to go in for hearing tests and they put the headphones on you to hear the beeps? Apparently, if you heard something, you got taken to another room where every couple weeks you would do these things. And it was essentially, they were trying to see if kids could remote view. And if you heard the certain beeps, it prompted them to think that your mind was susceptible to be able to do this. And I just thought of, and I didn't see this in my research, but I wonder if GATE was a precursor or a post Montauk, like if they used GATE to find the Montauk children, the Montauk Boys.
Makes sense,
So-
That's a
right?
connection.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look into that more.
I remember taking that test.
Me too.
I remember
Right.
taking the test. I don't remember the specialty stuff that everyone's like, oh, we went to this room and they had us memorize these flashcards. And I didn't do that.
No,
Weren't
I
special
didn't.
enough, Matt.
Yeah, it was a
sorry.
special,
Fair
yes.
enough.
Yeah.
I went,
Now look at me.
I
They
went to a
screwed
bunch
up.
of
Yeah.
special rooms when I was little, but
They knew what you were going to become, Matt. They're like, he'll expose us.
He's too dangerous. It's too dangerous to get the training.
You know Duncan.
Preston Nichols introduced Project Phoenix, which is a secret mind control program at Camp Hero with a radar, a chair, and a monster. Al Bielek connected it backwards in the 1943 Philadelphia experiment and forward through time, supplying the Cameron brothers' vanished ship the trip to Mars in the far future. Then Stuart Swerdlow expanded it outward and upward into trauma-based child programming, psychic warfare, and the cosmos full of aliens. And then the amplifiers took over. Coast to Coast AM with my, I don't know if hero's the right word, but yes, like who I strive to be, Art Bell. Like that's what I want my show to be, is like Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM. Coast to Coast AM, beaming Bielek and Nichols into millions of cars at 3 a.m. The Skybook sequels, the documentaries, the conventions, the internet forums, and at last pop culture itself. Until a Netflix series inspired by the whole thing became one of the biggest shows on Earth. So the legend we just experienced as one seamless film didn't arrive that way. We've explained this. What feels like one man's memory of one night in 1983 is in fact the collaborative work of at least 3 principal authors and thousands of contributors. Which raises the obvious, uncomfortable question, the one that you guys or another careful listener has been thinking of since part 1. If these men all lived through the same secret project, why don't their stories line up? Why does Nichols' account center on the machine, Bielek's on the time travel, Swerdlow's on the children and the aliens? Why do dates drift? The details multiply. The mythology grow more elaborate with every new teller. And there's 2 ways to answer that. The believers of Montauk have a coherent response. They argue that the memories were erased differently, subject by subject. That a program built to wipe minds would not wipe them cleanly or identically. They argue that trauma fragments recall that people who survive extreme experiences famously remember them in shards, out of order, incomplete, each person keeping a different piece. And they argue that hypnosis restored different portions to different men. Nichols recovered the engineering because he was an engineer. Bielek recovered the ship because he was on it. And Swerdlow recovered the programming because he was its subject. Different roles, different wounds, different fragments. So in that reading, the discrepancies aren't really a flaw at all. They're exactly what you would expect from real, separately shattered memories of one shared secret. But the skeptics have an equally coherent response. They argue that the stories don't match because they were built in sequence, each author reading and answering the last. That Bielek's account grew out of Nichols' book, and that Swerdlow's grew out of both. So of course each one adds rather than confirms. They argue the claims got more elaborate with every retelling because that is simply what stories do when they are rewarded for being interesting rather than for being true. And they point to the timeline as a tell. The fiction consistently came before the memory. Nichols' book preceded Bielek's recovered past. A 1984 movie preceded Bielek's certainty that he had lived it. In that reading, the discrepancies aren't shattered memories of one event. They are the growth rings of a story, each layer laid down after the one that came before it. Both readings fit the evidence that we have. One says the differences are the fingerprint of real trauma. The other says they are the fingerprint of a growing fiction. Now, before we test the pieces, we have the map of the whole structure. Every major thing we experienced in part 1 and the name of the person who put it there. So we're just going to blow through this real fast. Secret Mind Control Program, Project Phoenix, Preston Nichols. Montauk Chair, Preston Nichols. Sage Radar as a weapon against mind, Preston Nichols. The Bigfoot that Duncan summoned, Preston Nichols. The tie-in of the Real Project Stargate remote viewing program, Preston Nichols. Philadelphia experiment, Al Bielek. Edward Cameron, Al Bielek. Duncan Cameron, Al Bielek. The jump through time, the arrival in 1983, the elderly von Neumann in the doorway, Al Bielek. Time travel itself, the trip to Mars, the empty future city, Al Bielek. The Montauk Boys in the child programming, Swerdlow. The reptilian aliens overseeing the base, Swerdlow. Psychic cosmology and the language of hyperspace, Swerdlow. One base, 3 authors, 30 years. Now, Camp Hero isn't alone out on Montauk. And when you see what surrounds it, the legend stops looking like a random story attached to a random base and almost starts looking inevitable. Long Island is one of the most quietly loaded stretches of real estate in the country. It's a corridor of real, classified electromagnetic and biological research strung out along a single island like a wire. If you start about 70 miles west of Camp Hero in a called town Shoreham, in 1901, one of the most brilliant and tormented minds of the age came to Long Island to build the future. His name was Nikola Tesla, and the tower he raised at Shoreham was called Wardenclyffe. Wardenclyffe is real. Wardenclyffe is documented history. Tesla built it between 1901 and 1917 as a wireless power and transmission station. An attempt to broadcast not just information, but electrical energy itself through the earth and air to the whole world for free. The tower was designed by the architect Stanford White, funded and then abandoned by J.P. Morgan when it became clear there was no way to put a meter on free wireless power. And it was demolished for scrap in 1917. Tesla died broke and largely forgotten in a New York hotel room in 1943. But the detail Montauk legend seizes on, Tesla's design for Wardenclyffe included a 120-foot underground shaft beneath the tower. And local lore, older than the conspiracy, has always claimed there were tunnels running from that shaft to the beach, an underground network, on Long Island built by Tesla. It is a real-world echo of Camp Hero's supposed 12 levels, 70 miles up the same island. Wardenclyffe site is there today at the Tesla Science Center, saved from demolition in 2012 by a crowdfunding campaign fronted by the cartoonist behind the oatmeal with a donation from Elon Musk and damaged by a fire in November 2023. Tesla comes up again. If you keep driving east, you hit the second beat of the wire. Brookhaven National Laboratory was a genuine, still operating federal research facility run by the Department of Energy, where real physicists have done real Nobel-caliber work for the better part of a century. In the legend, Brookhaven is the administrative brain of the whole Montauk operation. In reality, it's a multidisciplinary science lab. But it's a big, secure government science lab on the same island as an abandoned radar base, and to a certain imagination, the proximity is a story all by itself. And then the last point is Camp Hero, out at the point. And then, well, not the last point, the third point. The fourth point, just across a narrow channel, and the darkest of all, because this one's not a metaphor. This one really did make monsters in the most literal biological sense. Plum Island. Plum Island was a biological research site. And I will tell you more about Plum Island in a minute. But I just want to mention that you have Wardenclyffe, you have Brookhaven, then Camp Hero, then Plum Island. All in a 70-mile row on the same island.
Yeah, you're building towards something here, right?
In the canonical Montauk story, Nikola Tesla did not die in that hotel room in 1943. He faked his death at age 86 and went underground, literally to secretly run operations at Camp Hero as its chief director for decades. And here is the truth at the bottom of it, because there almost always is one. When Tesla died in January 1943, the U.S. government really did move in. The Office of Alien Property Custodian, which I hate how they lump the word alien into anything that's like weird. Because for me, aliens, different. But they seized his papers from his hotel room, and a young MIT professor named John G. Trump, who is Donald's uncle, he is a real and distinguished electrical engineer, was brought in to examine them for anything of military value. That actually happened. The suppressed inventor whose secret papers were seized by the government on the day he died is not a paranoid fantasy. It is a footnote in the historical record. Now, we're not going to talk about this today, but that also brings us up into the Baron Trump as a time traveler, and John G. Trump is working at Camp Hero and part of the time travel story that little Baron Trump is actually like hundreds of years old. So things that really happened that we can document, verify actually happened. The keystone is MKUltra. And from 1953 to 1973, 20 years, the CIA ran a sprawling program into behavioral modification, chemical mind control, and cognitive manipulation, working through dozens of respected universities, hospitals, and foundations. The CIA subjected people, many unwitting American and Canadian citizens who never consented, to high doses of LSD, to paralytic drugs, and to sensory deprivation, and to prolonged isolation and electroconvulsive shock. The goal was to learn whether a human being could be broken down and rebuilt, memories erased, behavior controlled, and compliant new personality installed over the old one. When the Rockefeller Commission and the Senate's Church Committee exposed MKUltra in 1975, the public learned two things that would echo for 50 years. First, that it actually happened, and second, that the CIA had deliberately destroyed the overwhelming majority of the program's records in order to keep them from Congress. So the full scope can never actually be reconstructed by design. And that is the poison ground from which the entire Montauk legend grows. And it's fertile ground precisely because it's true. Like, this stuff happened. The second thing that it does, the quiet kind of lasting damage that it does, once you know for certain that a real agency really did destroy the evidence of a real atrocity, the absence of evidence stops feeling like reassurance and starts feeling like confirmation. There's no records of an underground base at Camp Hero lands very differently on someone who knows the CIA shredded the MKUltra files by the truckload. And the believer isn't being irrational when they distrust the clean official record. They're overcorrecting from betrayal. The government spent a decade teaching a generation that the paperwork lies. And Montauk is what rushes in to fill that vacuum of trust. The conspiracy is the interest we're still paying on, like, the debt that the CIA caused.
Yeah.
When you lie and you cover it up and that comes out, it allows your imagination to say, okay, what came after that? They obviously lied about this. What could they possibly have now with the more research, more technology?
Mm-hmm.
And your mind just goes to all kinds of crazy places.
And it's tough too, because like once you have that like sentiment of doubt inside your mind, even if if it's real evidence after the fact, you're not even going to believe that.
You doubt everything.
Everything moving forward. Yeah.
It's pretty much anything the government says, I say, yeah, but what else?
It's like in Roswell. I forget the guy's name. I'm drawing a blank. But this guy kept seeing lights over Area 51. And he was filming them, and the government came in and told him, yes, you are seeing aliens. And they fed him all this fake information.
Yeah.
And they slowly made the guy go insane. So they would give him a little bit of truth, and then they'd sprinkle in these like outrageous fake things that would like just infest his mind. And he ended up getting institutionalized and everything because they purposely led him down the wrong path.
And then when he shared that with the UFO community, it's like, oh, this is all fake. This is all made up.
Right. So in the documents that they put out there, when you see something outlandish in it, it's like, okay, is this the fake part or is this the real part?
Yeah.
And it just keeps that doubt in your head. MKUltra isn't the only true precedent for this. There was Holmesburg Prison in Philadelphia, where for decades real inmates were subjected to real dermatological and chemical testing, an experimental program on a captive population that kind of reads like a fiction novel, but it's documented fact. There was Operation Paperclip, where we brought in Nazi scientists to the American research establishment. We scrubbed their past, their expertise stayed. Every one of these things is verifiable. Everyone actually happened. So when the Montauk whistleblowers step forward and say the government secretly continued its mind control off the books after MKUltra was shut down, they're not really starting from nothing. They're starting from a foundation of the CIA's lies.
I can't imagine a program like that just shutting down. It shifts, it changes, but if they had any success, they would continue it under a different name once it came out.
Absolutely. And that's actually the claim. According to the whistleblowers, primarily Preston Nichols, backed by Al Bielek and Stuart Swerdlow, the end of MKUltra in the mid-70s wasn't an end at all. The research just moved. It went off book, out to the remote and freshly decommissioned base at Camp Hero, and it got a new name, Project Phoenix. And then there was Project Phoenix the second and Project Phoenix the third. And that is the stencil that we saw on the door when Edward was walking down the hallway with Preston Nichols there. The focus supposedly shifted from chemistry to electromagnetics. And Nichols, who by day said that he worked as an acoustics and electronics engineer for real Long Island defense contractors like Airborne Instruments Laboratories and Bendix, claimed that by night, under mind control, he served as the assistant technical director of the secret experiments. He claimed he personally operated the giant SAGE radar transmitter and that by modulating its pulse and phase and frequency, the team learned to reach directly into the electrical activity of the human brain. And they were able to use that to hijack it. The recurring phrase in the lore for what they were trying to build is pretty compact. And we heard it when we were going through the story. A machine that could induce schizophrenia at the touch of a button. Nichols said they tested it by putting people, sometimes individuals, sometimes whole groups of unsuspecting Montauk residents in the line of sight of the dish and broadcasting patterns that could remotely induce terror or rage or euphoria or total compliance. That street of people who all felt the same dread at once, that is the claim stated plainly. And every night, he said, his own memory of the work was wiped clean with neural scrambling frequencies, leaving him nothing but a vague dread until in the late 1980s, he recovered it all through regression hypnosis.
Hell yeah, Men in Black, like little machine, just click.
Essentially.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
And what's the radio frequency machine that they're using for crowd control now that's came out?
Oh, yeah.
That's official.
Yeah.
They're using certain frequencies to get rid of riots.
Wait.
Yeah.
It's not so much mind control as it's like just debilitating like audio sounds that like hit your ears and make you pretty much like freak out and like you want to escape, so you leave the area.
It's the active denial system. It's a directed energy weapon, a DEW, which you can't say on TikTok. They block those videos.
Oh.
Yeah. Every time I've mentioned it, they flag it. Even if I'm talking about like real documented, like if I went on and made a video about this, it gets flagged for whatever, even though it's true, even though it's 100% true.
It's something that they are actually using. And
right.
If they are releasing that, what else could they possibly have?
Right.
Montauk's sounding more real to me at this point.
Yeah. The funny thing too is like I originally had the question of I get wanting to use it for mind control over like general populations. Totally see that. But why are they like, yo, Chris, you were an electrical engineer? We're just gonna mind control you to come do our work. And like, I don't know, it just seems like a weird use. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like,
free labor.
Throw money at him.
Yeah.
And Chris would probably still come work for us. Like, like what?
I think it's something with his expertise in the type of machinery they used.
Yeah.
That by mind controlling him, that he still knew what he was doing. I'm not sure.
Okay. I also can see like the whole like making him forget what he was doing part of it, I guess.
Right.
That could be it.
And his description is just technical enough that a layman was like, yeah, that makes sense. That could be real.
Mm-hmm. Now, the real weapon, the ADS, works by firing a high-powered beam of 95 gigahertz waves at a target, which is a wavelength of 3.2 millimeters. The ADS millimeter wave energy works on a principle similar to a microwave. It excites the water and fat molecules in the skin by instantly heating them via dielectric heating.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah,
that sounds gross.
They're basically cooking the water in your skin.
It The effect of repelling humans occurs at slightly higher than 44 degrees Celsius, which is 111 degrees Fahrenheit. And a lot of people will get first-degree burns and second-degree burns from the device.
Wow.
And the government is using this for crowd control. That's
Yep. It is patented
horrifying.
by Raytheon, who has a reduced range version, and it was first used in 2010 in the Afghanistan War. And then on August 20th, 2010, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department used it to control incarcerated people at the Pitchless Detention Center in Los Angeles.
Well, why does a sheriff's office randomly have this like advanced technology?
Yeah.
Like what?
That's what I was going to ask.
I don't know. For the ADS, most human test subjects reached their pain threshold within 3 seconds, and none could endure more than 5 seconds.
Ooh. So what do? You just run away from it?
I guess because
You have 3 to 5 seconds to run away?
Or your skin melts?
or
Yeah.
it just hurts too bad. Yeah. So a spokesman for the Air Force Research who was a test subject said for the first millisecond, it just felt like the skin was warming up. Then it got warmer and warmer and you felt like it was on fire. And as soon as you're away from the beam, your skin returns to normal and there's no pain.
Is that
Wow.
what it's like for you when you're in crowds, just normal?
Yes. Just my
You don't
skin
like,
burns.
Yeah, you don't like crowds.
That's what it's like for me if I go outside this time of year.
So, vampire.
Is that an energy weapon? No, it's a sun mat.
I mean,
This is the skin of a killer, Kathy. My Twilight reference. Now, we're back to Montauk now.
Okay.
At the center of all this sits the single most iconic piece of hardware in the mythology, the Montauk chair. Now, Nichols described it in real technical detail. A comfortable, non-conductive recliner lined with 3 sets of electromagnetic pickup coils built under contract by ITT and Sperry Rand. The faint magnetic fields from the operator's brain, he said, were captured by those coils, amplified by preamplifiers cooled with liquid helium to near absolute zero, then split into a 6-channel receiver array and fed into a modified Cray 1 supercomputer that translated raw thought commands for the radar.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yep.
I follow that.
Yeah. So it's a brain wired to a computer wired to a 70-ton antenna. You put thought in one end and you affect reality out of the other. And that's the chair that we strapped Duncan into.
So not to get too technical, but they have measured electrical waves outside of the skull for the first couple of inches. So something about that actually adds up scientifically.
Mm-hmm. Again, Montauk's leaning towards real right now.
Yeah.
Now, where we have to be a little honest about the story is that there's a real technology that the Montauk chair is modeled after. And I think we talked about this last time, but we'll recap it. It's called a magnetoencephalography, or a MEG. And a MEG scanner is real and they exist in hospitals and they map brain activity by detecting the faint magnetic fields and electrical currents in the brain. They use superconducting sensors called squids that are cooled with liquid helium to near absolute zero. And so Nichols clearly knew what a MEG machine was. And he took a real, exotic sounding, genuinely existing brain scanner and applied that to the chair. But the thing that the MEG can't do is it's purely a passive listening device. It can read what your brain is doing, but it can't transmit anything. It can't project a thought. It can't move any molecules of matter. The Montauk chair takes the receiver and claims that it was also a transmitter. And there's not a device that we know of that can do that. But again, keyword there is that we know of.
Isn't that how all technology works? We take something we understand and we build on it.
Right. And everything sounds made up until it's not.
Yeah.
What is it? sufficiently advanced technology would appear the same as magic.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It's indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys are like going really deep, and my brain's caught on that in the X-Men. This is where Magneto's name came from. I'm like, sick.
I was thinking about the technology and how like the 1970s, 80s Star Trek TV show was like our like technology. They'd have like the phones and they could see each other and like talk. I was thinking Star Trek.
Now we get iPhones and they could teleport.
Can we teleport?
We can.
They can in Montauk.
Well, apparently one guy got teleported to a Waffle House.
All right, yeah.
I mean, tell me more, Matt. I'm not moving on from that. What? Of all places, a Waffle House?
How do I get to teleport to a Waffle House?
This is the problem with Weirder After Dark. You're going a lot of side quests.
You spend 30 hours playing side quests and you realize you're still on the first mission of the game. No, apparently this one government official said that they had teleportation or portal technology that transported him to a Waffle House.
I heard about this. Didn't we talk about this?
On Weirder After Dark?
I don't
We
remember.
might have. I don't know.
I think I remember this. Yeah, because he said, we were saying that we thought he was drunk. But, like, we couldn't explain.
That sounds right.
Probably
teleported when I was drunk.
I think that was a joke.
4 hours later, I woke up in a different bar. I don't know how. It must have teleported.
There was a portal. There was a government portal. Now, there is a technical fact that quietly dismantles the mind control claim, which is physics related. The Montauk story says that the SAGE radar reached into human brains, and human brain waves, the real electrical rhythms of a real brain, oscillate at extremely low frequencies, roughly half a hertz to 100 hertz. And the SAGE radar operated between 420 and 450 million hertz. So they're
nowhere
not
near
even
the
close.
same wavelength.
Correct. So a radar transmitting up in the hundreds of megahertz has no way to modulate the slow, faint, half hertz electrical whisper of a human mind. It's kind of like trying to conduct an orchestra by revving a jet engine because the energies just don't match. The claim doesn't really fail because it's scary. It fails because somebody picked the wrong frequency by a large factor when they were making the story of the Montauk Project. Now, the believer version does have an answer for this. Supporters point to real research the government did into ionospheric heating and atmospheric manipulation and to a real man named Wilhelm Reich, the mid-century psychoanalyst who invented a pseudo-scientific life energy he called orgone. And in Montauk, the base married Reich's orgone theories to the military electronics to build weather control and frequency warfare systems, launching hundreds of weather balloon transmitters to burn off what Reich called deadly orgone radiation, steer the jet stream, cook up storms, and heat the ionosphere to block Soviet missiles.
Is this
and
HARP?
That thread runs straight into the modern obsession with HARP.
I should let you finish your sentence.
Now, there are people who believe that Montauk, when it shut down at Camp Hero, moved to HARP. That everything that was happening at Montauk is now happening at the HARP facility. And instead of that one radar that we had, you have the giant HARP antenna. So that is a theory of what is going on with Montauk now.
It's all connected, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected.
one story. And HARP is in Alaska, correct?
I believe that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where it
Yep.
started,
Yeah.
Yep.
Where nobody's looking.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's also connected to that mountain with like aliens that work in there, right?
Yeah.
Up in
Yeah, the
Alaska.
pyramid
Yeah.
/ mountain.
Again, another
Kathy's
thing.
like, what are you guys talking about?
Just here for the story, man.
Another thing you can't mention on TikTok: HARP and weather control.
Huh.
Really?
Yep.
TikTok, those bastards.
They flag.
Well,
I've
it's-
never gotten flagged on any other platform but TikTok.
Really interesting that what they flag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because it's government controlled.
Maybe.
It is now.
Or maybe
Yeah.
they don't want you sharing conspiracy theories that aren't true and getting people worked up. But
That's what they claim.
yeah,
But I think it's
'cause
that they don't want you.
leaking like information out.
because there's something real to this, and
Yeah,
stop talking about it.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
Is there's some thread of truth to it, and they're like, no, we can't have this out there.
Mhm.
Well, you're
there's-
doing this work, important work for us, Matt. Keep mentioning weird shit and see what they flag, and that's what we look into.
And that's what we document. Yep. So I also mentioned Alex Jones in Star Wars and got flagged for that. So
All right.
Well, that's because it's like a look over here, all this stuff that's being flagged, but
true.
like
It's the same
don't
concept
look
of
over here.
Yeah, it's the same
Regular
concept
politics.
of giving the fake information inside of
Mhm.
real information.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like if we flag Star Wars, but we flag HARP, we don't, there's no
Yeah.
connection there. Yeah.
We're on to you.
Mhm.
Watch out, TikTok.
We're waking up.
Yeah. Weirder After Dark. Paranormal Directive 13 and Snake. We're coming for
Snake.
We're
Snake
coming for it.
Snake for president.
Yeah.
It can't be worse.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, he'd get my vote.
We would know if whether Bigfoot was real or not if he was
Yeah.
president.
It wouldn't
That would
a
be the whole
question.
focus.
Yeah.
And then he's tearing into the alien files.
Yeah. I'm putting
Yep.
the entire national budget towards finding Bigfoot.
I'm fine with that.
I want the Marines,
Rather-
the Army, the Navy. I'm looking for Bigfoot right now.
I mean, I'd rather go to that than lining Bezos and Musk's pockets.
Agreed.
So
Fair.
Agreed.
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Close the international bases. Everyone's coming home for Big O.
gotta figure this out. And then we have the Philadelphia experiment. Now, I've said on record and to you guys today, no matter what I say here in this section, I 100% believe that the USS Eldridge disappeared in the Philadelphia harbor in 1943. Okay? But the story, the official story, in 1955, a UFO researcher named Morris Jessup began receiving strange, rambling, multicolored letters signed Carlos Allende, sometimes Carl M. Allen, and Allende claimed that in October 1943, from the deck of a merchant ship at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, he watched the Navy make the destroyer escort USS Eldridge turn completely invisible, and then teleport instantly to Norfolk, Virginia, and back. He said the crew paid a horrific price. Men were fused into the steel of the deck. Some came back insane. Some could walk through walls and never came all the way back to solid. That is what happened in the Philadelphia experiment. Now, if you follow the timeline of how that story became famous, Allende's letters land in 1955. In 1965, a writer named Vincent Gaddis retold the tale in a book he called Invisible Horizons. In 1978, a novel called Thin Air fictionalized it. And in 1979, Charles Berlitz and William Moore turned it into a genuine bestseller called The Philadelphia Experiment Project Invisibility. In 1984, Hollywood made a movie out of it. In 1988, a man watches the 1984 movie and announces that it unlocked his repressed memories, and his name is Al Bielek, and the fiction once again came first. Now, the logbooks say the Philadelphia experiment is one of the most thoroughly investigated and comprehensively debunked stories in all of naval history. USS Eldridge was a real ship, was commissioned on August 27, 1943 at the New York Navy Yard. Its official deck logs and war diaries, preserved on film at the Naval History and Heritage Command Museum, showed that through September and October 1943, the exact window of the Philadelphia experiment, the ship was doing shakedown training and sea trials in Bermuda and then escorting a convoy to Casablanca. It was never docked in Philadelphia that fall, and the merchant ship Allende claimed to be watching from, the SS Andrew Forsyth, had its own movement records, and they showed the two ships were never in Norfolk at the same time, and the master of the Forsyth categorically denied ever seeing anything unusual. And then there's Carl Allen himself, who is a real man who joined the Marines in 1942 and was medically discharged for psychiatric instability in May 1943. months before the experiment he claimed to witness. And over the course of his life, Allen confessed more than once to friends and researchers that he made the entire thing up. And then he'd recant, and then he'd confess again, depending on the state of his mind. And there's an ordinary verifiable phenomenon sitting right underneath the myth that probably seeded it. During the war, the Navy really did run experiments at Philadelphia Yard called degaussing, which was wrapping huge electrical cables around a ship's hull to cancel out its magnetic signature so it couldn't set off mines that went on magnets. In the language of the shipyard, degaussing made a ship invisible to mines. And to a sailor who didn't understand technology and magnetic invisibility and optical invisibility, that's one careless word apart for them. There's very likely a man like Allende was at that ship and said, "We made the ship invisible." But then the most powerful piece of the whole segment isn't a logbook. It's a room full of old men. Because in 1999, the surviving crew of the USS Eldridge, the real men who actually served aboard the real ship at the heart of this entire thing, held a reunion. And they gave interviews and they said flatly on the record the ship was never in Philadelphia. It never vanished, nothing happened, and they found the whole legend genuinely hilariously funny.
Could you imagine like walking to your mailbox, you get like a colorful letter and you're like, oh yeah, sick, someone sent me a letter, and you go in and it's just like, the men are dying, the boats are teleporting, like,
Fused to the metal.
what is this? So wondering how Betty's kids were doing
So
that.
it's really not colorful and
Yeah, I mean, it's
happy.
colorful.
But again, records and things can be altered and changed and all that. I still 100% believe that the Eldridge disappeared.
All this could easily be put to bed if we didn't catch the government in so many lies about past programs, right?
Mm-hmm. Bielek's version is the bridge that welds the Philadelphia experiment to Montauk. Bielek claimed that he was really Edward Cameron, a Navy physicist aboard the Eldridge in 1943. He claimed that when the generators fired and the ship was pulled out of phase into hyperspace and started tearing itself apart, that he and his brother Duncan jumped over the side. And instead of hitting the water, they fell through a tear in space and time and landed at Camp Hero in 1983, 40 years in the future, where he said an elderly Dr. John von Neumann was waiting to tell them they'd been pulled forward to shut down a runaway temporal portal threatening to tear the planet apart. Now, that detail, von Neumann waiting in 1983, is a problem because John von Neumann was one of the most famous mathematicians of the 20th century, and the historical record of his life is pretty airtight, and he died in 1957. So he could not have been at Camp Hero in 1983 because he had been dead for 26 years. But
unless they had a time machine.
Right. This is
Right.
because we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I mean, unless they do have the time machine and they're teleporting people back and forth, of course
Right.
you could be in a different time, in a different age when you wouldn't technically supposed to be there.
now there's one thing too with the Carlos Allende letters that were sent to Morris K. Jessup. Now, Morris K. Jessup was found dead from suicide in his car on the side of a road on his way to a meeting. So he said that he had, now there's stories out there that his finances was falling apart, his marriage was falling apart, and he was going through a lot of stuff. And so he was suicidal. There's also stories that he claimed he was on the verge of a breakthrough and he had very important information to share to a colleague. And then on his way to that meeting with a colleague, he was found dead by asphyxiation on the side of the road from a hose running from the tailpipe of his car into his window.
On the side of the road?
Just pulled over on the side of the road.
Like that's
Yeah, if you're trying to kill yourself, you do it in private.
And
you don't schedule a meeting that you're on your way
Right,
to.
yeah.
Like that, nothing about that adds up.
well, I mean,
Unless
think you do it on the
unless you
way to
want
the
to be
meeting.
found,
Yeah,
like
you're-
unless you want like people to know, hey, he didn't show up for the meeting, so we should go look for him.
parasuicidal. You're hoping somebody saves you. I
But
don't
to
know.
just be like on a drive and then just pull over to the side of the road, I think like it'd be more likely maybe you go someplace I don't know.
Yeah.
Now there's
They're just going off to the side of the road, kind of.
right. Well, there's undocumented but widely believed knowledge that Jessup was killed and that they staged a suicide to make it look like a suicide, but he was poisoned or something like that. And there was no autopsy done or toxicology done on his body because they thought it was very clear that he just committed suicide. And allegedly, that was his cause of death was given by a doctor who happened to be driving by while the police were going over the car, got out of his car, said, "Yep, he committed suicide from the hose there." And they said, "All right, works for us," and ran with it. Some random doctor who just showed up on the side of the road, pronounced the cause of death, and left.
No coroner report.
Nope.
I mean, there's official channels that they're supposed to go through, and just trusting this random doctor.
Yeah,
that's something about that's
Do we
really
know?
suspect.
Do we know what his breakthrough thing? Do we have any idea what that was?
The theory is that there was proof of the Philadelphia experiment. That the stuff that Allende was sending him was actually
real.
true. But again, yeah, no
And
autopsy.
Are we sure that it was his body that they found?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
they are sure it was him.
I'm just saying. There's been
Nothing about that.
suicides that have happened.
None of that adds up.
Mhm.
Everything about that's very suspect.
Agreed.
Let's take the time travel claims seriously enough to actually examine them, because that's a big part of the whole Montauk thing is time travel. Nichols and Bielek claimed that by the late 1970s, the team had married the Montauk chair to the SAGE radar and built what they called the time tunnel. And the way it worked was when you put a psychic in the chair, Duncan or whoever else they were using, they would concentrate on a point in space and time, and the Cray 1 computer would translate his brainwaves into precise electromagnetic commands, and the radar would broadcast them at immense power, warping gravity itself at what they called the null point, which was underground and opened a physical spinning blue vortex that you could walk through. So that's the doorway that Ed and Duncan went through. So essentially, you have the psychic thinking of a spot, the radar creates a portal to that place and time. So Bielek claimed that he went through it with Duncan many times, describing the transit as violently disorienting. There was a crushing pressure and static discharge. And he said that it sent them back to, it let them send people back to alter history or scout future timelines, and to move personnel to secret colonies on Mars.
Would it be wild? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Would it be wild to say that the guy who committed suicide, because when you were talking about it, maybe in a timeline, he goes and he has this breakthrough and he puts it all out there. But maybe
they have to go back and
stop
that.
They had to stop that. So they went back.
Something terrible happens because he did that.
Because he did that, so they stopped him.
It's possible.
Maybe.
Some big brain shit. Obviously, Doctor Strange isn't real, but I'm just thinking about this whole big machine now created that's generating these little time warp wormholes. That could be the 1960s version of today's computer, or that's now on a little iPhone that Doctor Strange now walks around. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Well, it sounds similar to CERN, right?
Yeah.
Creating wormholes and.
Why don't they shut down?
And what better way to make the public comfortable with things than to make it in their movies and their TV shows?
Mm-hmm.
Not to get too far
Soft
off,
disclosure.
Since they turned off CERN, everything seemed to have gone back to normal a little bit. You notice that? The weather's normal again.
People are saying. I mean, I guess that makes sense because we were having 100-degree heat and all that, and since it's been off, it's been back to 80.
Wait, when did they turn it off?
4 days ago.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
They're doing some update or maintenance.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or they tore too many wormholes and too much weird shit came through.
our heat wave stopped.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
The
can
day
go
was
outside
gorgeous.
without melting.
Recency bias, but I'm all in.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Was nice.
I've heard people saying that they're sleeping better.
I
I've
am
heard that
not
too,
doing
yeah.
that.
I've heard people say
I
that.
haven't been sleeping better.
Yeah.
I haven't
Same.
either, but I've also heard people saying that certain Mandela effects have reverted back to original, like they're seeing
Like
the
Bernstein
cornucopia
Bears? Like, what
again.
are we
Yeah,
talking about? Yeah.
I haven't seen the Bernstein Bears, but Fruit Loops, where it was OOT instead of fruit FRUIT. It used to be FROOT, like
And that's how it
Fruit
was,
Loops.
wasn't it? With the
Apparently
different color
not.
Fruit Loops.
Mm.
Yeah,
No.
apparently
Fruit Loops had
the two O's.
the two
Yeah.
O's.
Yeah, but apparently it didn't. But apparently now it does again.
We got to do a deep dive. That's
Yeah.
a whole other episode.
Or go
Yeah, I
back
can
and
spend an
then
hour
Concerns
through
off,
this.
and
Yeah.
shit's gone back to normal.
Back to Montauk. The destinations that Bielek claims they went to, or Ed Cameron, are Civil War at Gettysburg, colonies on Mars, and the future. Sometimes the year 6037, sometimes 2137, and sometimes 2749. And those dates are specific, so we'll dive into them a little bit in the future. So what does the physics behind this actually say? It's possible, is what the physics say. Einstein's general relativity does allow mathematically for structures called Einstein-Rosen bridges, which are wormholes that could, in theory, connect two distant points in space and time. That part is real theoretical physics. But to open one of those wormholes and hold it open long enough to walk through, you would need what physicists call exotic matter, which is matter with negative mass and negative energy density, to prop the tunnel open against its own tendency to collapse in on itself. There's no evidence that that exotic matter can be produced in any quantities that you would need. Not even a little bit, none of it.
But it
And there's-
exists? Does it actually exist?
Dark
itself?
matter does exist.
Yeah.
And one of the theories about dark matter is it is human consciousness,
I've heard that.
which would line up with the Montauk experiments.
My mind is blown right now.
We're getting weird.
So, theoretically, in physics, none of this is impossible. So keep that in mind. Now, time travel is also where Montauk stops being one legend and becomes kind of a switchboard for the other legends that it's surrounded with. You have Project Looking Glass, which was a supposed device of counter-rotating rings of mercury plasma that let operators peer into future timelines. And the claim that in the years before 2012, when CERN found the Higgs boson, by the way, they saw every future funnel toward a single unavoidable point and panicked. So they saw every single future collapse in at one end.
And
one
are
end
those
point.
the specific dates that they're going back to?
One of them is, yes.
Ooh, yeah.
There's Andrew Basiago, who's a practicing attorney and claims that as a child, he took part in DARPA's Project Pegasus. I need to do a whole episode on DARPA. Teleporting through time on a Tesla-derived technology. Now, this is Nikola Tesla, not Elon Musk's Tesla. And
Self-driving through time.
he says that he can identify himself as a boy in a famous 1863 photograph of the crowd at Gettysburg. A photograph that looks like a boy from 1863. So let's show you guys that picture.
I'm intrigued.
Want to see it?
Does he look out of place?
I looked at. I've seen this picture before. There's something about it.
He
that's
does look out of
strange.
place.
Yeah.
Right there. He does not look quite like everybody else. It's hard to say, but like they got the hat, but that doesn't look like a hat. That looks more like a haircut than the hat that these guys are wearing. And the pants are different. The shoes look a little different.
And
Yeah,
he's
so-
clearly not interacting with anybody.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah, it looks like he's just
completely doing his
looking
own
around.
thing, Yeah.
Yeah, just looking around, checking it out.
I think the hat looks kind of. I think that the hat
Similar to
doesn't
that.
really. Yeah, the hat doesn't really throw me. What throws me is the pants, like at the very bottom. They look like
Cuffed?
how old? Yeah, they look cuffed, like he's wearing jeans. From
Mhm.
like how old? Like what year would that he have been
Um,
from? Like at that age,
when did he?
because it looks like maybe like the 50s, like when they would like cuff their pants like that.
So Andrew Basiago. Oh, this is his Facebook page. Here, I gotta show you guys this. That's his Facebook page.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Project Pegasus. So he is, I want to see when he was born. We graduated from Cambridge in 95. So let's say you're what, 25-ish?
Yeah. So somewhere in the 70s.
So he's born in the
70s,
70s. So yeah, so this was probably, that photo was probably somewhere in the
In the 70s,
70s, early 80s.
80s.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, it could be.
Not to like challenge this, but like imagine how would he be able to identify himself in just like a random photo unless he like asked the photo to be taken and then thinking of like, look how blurry he is in the photo, right? Would you be able to pull yourself out?
Is
in a
everyone else blurry
photo?
like that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Everything
everyone
is.
else's.
So allegedly, what it is he knows the day and time that he went, and then the photo is time stamped. Like when those older photos have the date and times and stuff on them. And he's like,
Sure,
"That's the
sure.
day I went. I know what I was doing. I know where I was standing." And he's like, "That's me."
Yeah, you're taking his word for it.
Yeah.
Yep, that's me. I'm super introverted. Had to be talking to nobody. I always have a weird blurry face.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That would not be me.
So there's the idea that Montauk plus the particle collisions at CERN fractured the timeline and gave us the Mandela effect. There's underground D1 bases connected to Montauk by maglev tunnels running from Dulce and Area 51, which are both out in New Mexico. Dulce base is where they apparently had a war with underground
Yeah.
reptilians.
So they pulled every theory into this one
Yep.
theory.
And then it's also connected to the very well named secret space program and Mars colonies.
The secret one, not the
This-
regular
Yeah.
one.
So the secret space program is essentially that there's a galactic federation and that we've been out in space and colonized other planets.
But that
Unknowingly.
doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
I just imagine trying to come up with a nickname. You're like, what should we call this? It's like secret
The
space
secret
program.
clubhouse.
Space program, but we're keeping it secret. I got it.
Have you ever watched How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
So when Barney's trying to hit on the one girl, says he's an astronaut, and he's like, he works for secret NASA called SNASA.
NASA.
And then he's like, she's like, "You've been to the moon?" He's like, "Well, no, but I've been to the smoon." This reminds me of
That's
that.
great.
The secret space program. So every one of these theories and connections is, by any scientific standard, like a 1 out of 5. There's a very loose connection, right? But that's an important structural fact about Montauk. It's not a story so much as it is a plug for every conspiracy. It's a unified theory of American paranoia. Whatever someone is afraid of, whether that's HARP or CERN, the Mandela effect, Mars, Hollow Earth, underground bases, Montauk has a plug for it. And it's not really a strength of the story because it almost gets to the point where it's too much. So real secret projects are usually specific and small and sometimes boring. Usually they don't encompass everything. But that could also be a point as to why it's true and why people don't believe it, is because it's the blurry Bigfoot photo conundrum. If you have a photo of Bigfoot and it's blurry, everyone's like, "Oh, it's too blurry, you can't tell what it is," whatever. But then if you had one that's crystal clear, everyone's going to say, "Well, that's too good. It's obviously fake because it's too good of a photo." It's the same with Montauk. It's like you can have a little bit of conspiracy or too much, and both sides can be accurate of what they're trying to explain. By now, in true PD-13 spirit, we have the aliens.
Yes.
It took
Because
us this
of
long
course.
to get into aliens.
I know.
We're 2 hours in, Matt.
Because of course there are aliens. Now, in the Fuller mythology, Camp Hero's underground levels weren't run by humans at all, or not only by humans. Nichols claimed to have worked alongside small grays and large grays from Zeta Reticuli, same ones that Betty and Barney saw, who handed over the circuit designs needed to stabilize the time tunnels, so that negative dark matter that we needed for these time tunnels, the grays provided us the technology to actually sustain them and keep them open. Swerdlow claimed the base housed a contingent of reptilian draconians, the green-skinned bipedal reptiles who oversaw the trauma programming of the Montauk Boys, lived in deep bunkers connected by tunnels, which makes sense that the reptilians would be the ones in charge of traumatizing children.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be the evil version, the evil aliens. So
They
I guess
traumatized
that
me.
makes-
I'm scared of them.
I had some guy asking me if like lizard men, like the skateboard swamp and like all these other like lizard cryptids are connected to reptilians. And I'm like, you know what? That's a great thought. I'm going to have to do like a whole
Wouldn't they
deep
be?
dive on that. Yes and no, but I could see how they could be different, but also that could be the same. So I'd have to really dive into that one.
You have to wait for that episode to find out, Kathy.
Yeah, I have to wait.
Yep. Now, other tellings also add Nordic aliens from the Pleiades as kind of the diplomatic corps who keep the peace between the Greys and the Reptilians. So you got 3 species living in this basement. Sean's shaking his head.
Oh, just like leave it to the fucking white people to be like, we're the peacekeepers.
Yeah, that doesn't check out.
Yeah.
Now, the alien lore is that the Nordics are the peaceful race and that they're descended from humans. They're actually like future humans is what the Nordics are. And the Greys are more like little robots, kind of hive mind, just technology based. And the Reptilians are evil. So
We have that to look forward to.
it checks out.
Yeah.
Wait,
Now, all
wait. The Greys are robots?
Well, there's some people who think that the Greys are tools of like kind of like synthetic robots, like organic robots that are bred for just tasks. So
like
that's
an
why they're
AI. sort of?
kind of, yeah, like a living AI. So that's why they're the ones who are doing the abductions and stuff, because it's like the grunt work. And they're just like, you guys go do this. And that's why they're always seen as like cold and non like talkative. They're just like, they just do their task and are done. So that's a theory on the Greys.
So
And then
who's their leader then? Like
The Nordics.
The Nordics.
Okay.
Nordics created the Greys to do
all
just the work, do
But
all the
they're
grunt work.
extensions of humans coming back to abduct more humans? Oh, this is getting deep.
They're
Yeah.
all basically Elon Musk in the future.
It explains so much.
If Elon just wants to go to space so he can bang an alien. That is all he wants to do. That is his life's goal.
He's never
I'm
had
okay
sex.
sending him to space.
But in that theory, Sean, if the Nordics are future humans, the idea is that their abductions are to work on the genetic manipulation of creating, like genetically modifying humans as for like evolution.
Okay.
So they're picking people up, modifying them so that gets spread into the population.
For some reason, that makes me less scared of aliens.
But then wouldn't that change them in the future?
Well, yeah, that's the point. When they're making us all into Elon Musk.
God. Well,
No.
Whose genes do you think they're using? Come on.
so Kathy,
Mine.
to that point, in the multiverse, many worlds, different timelines theory, you cannot go back in time and change the timeline that you're currently on. So when you go back in time or you modify something, It doesn't change where you came from. It changes
splits.
that timeline's future.
Yep.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
So you can never go backwards to your own timeline. You can jump to a separate timeline in the past. And then you can modify something for them. But if you ever go back to your original, that change won't have happened.
So then the whole idea in Back to the Future, where he says he can't run into himself because he's going to change his future, isn't real.
Yes. So Back to the Future.
Hollywood lied again. This is bullshit.
I'm just trying to keep up.
I think Back to the Future came out before the multiverse theory, before people had when that came out, it was time is linear. You go forward or backwards in one timeline. And then you got into they're like, well, actually there's many universes and everything splits and all that. So you're going to different string theory, all that is all. So I don't know.
Okay. Sorry. We went off on a tangent.
I could spend an hour on that, but let's move forward.
Yes. So move forward by going through time travel. This whole thing of the 3 different alien races slots into a larger exopolitical claim that in 1953, a fleet of alien craft took up orbit around the equator, and that the Eisenhower administration negotiated with them in binary computer code, and that the resulting treaties let the aliens build underground bases like Area 51, Dulce, and Camp Hero, and abduct a quota of humans for genetic research in exchange for the physics behind the stealth, microprocessors, fiber optics, and the sensors in the Montauk chair. In this version, half of the modern technological world was alien severance. We offered humans in exchange for technology. Now, Project Blue Book says that none of this happened. They found no evidence of secret alien treaties, no evidence of joint human alien bases, blah, 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 blah. Of course they did. But if it was real, you're not going to document and put that out there in a report. There's one strand of the time travel lore, though, that's worth pulling on by itself. Because it's one that says it has a photograph and a murdered piece of evidence and a defector. Montauk was never a purely American operation in this theory. It was a joint venture, the Bulgarian experiment or the Bulgarian connection, in which, at the height of the Cold War, U.S. radar engineers secretly pooled their hardware with this parapsychology and psychotronics research being done behind the Iron Curtain by Soviet and Bulgarian scientists. 2 enemy superpowers, quietly bypassing both Congress and the Politburo to run the ultimate experiments in mind control and time together at a lonely base at the edge of Long Island. The signature story for this is a defector. Supposedly, in 1988, a Spanish-Russian dissident named Enrico Chekhov defected to the West, claiming he'd seen 1970 satellite imagery showing a space-time bubble hovering over Montauk Point. It was an actual visible distortion photographed from orbit. He allegedly showed the photographs to a New York Times reporter, and then the story goes his apartment was burgled, which is a fun word to say.
Burgled. Nothing was taken except the photographs. It's kind of perfect little conspiracy rabbit hole.
Yep.
It explains part of it, but it also explains why you can never find the proof for it, because it was taken. Now, we met the builders. We test the single claim that gives the whole structure its power. The claim that they built it independently, each man separately recovering the same secret on his own. This is the part where the whole thing either holds together or comes apart. Because the reason the Montauk Project has survived for over 30 years is that it appears to have independent corroboration. Multiple men, the story goes, separately recovered memories of the same secret project. And when several unconnected people independently remember the same impossible thing, that's pretty powerful. And that is the strongest apparent evidence the mythology has. So, the story comes from books. a paperback series published starting in June 1992 by Sky Books, founded specifically to publish the books by a man named Vincent Barbrick, who wrote under the pen name Peter Moon. The founding text, The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, was co-authored by Moon and Preston Nichols. And then the franchise kind of grows. The 1993 sequel, Montauk Revisited, bolts on the occult aspects of it. The Tool Society, Aleister Crowley, the Ordo Templi Orientis. In 1995, the book Pyramids of Montauk claims the Egyptian pyramids and the sage dish are aligned on a planetary consciousness grid steering human evolution. The Black Sun in 1997, the Black Sun is a Nazi symbol, adds a secret Nazi-Tibetan alliance building time machines out of ancient mysticism. Each book reaches further out and grabs another mythology and brings it back in. And then it went global. Skybooks licensed translations into Romanian, Bulgarian, German, Spanish, cementing a Long Island radar base as a staple of world conspiracy culture. Now, Preston Nichols wasn't a lone whistleblower who stumbled onto something. Before Montauk ever entered the picture, Nichols was already a figure in the 1970s and 80s psychotronics movement, a scene built entirely around the belief that the government beamed thoughts into people's heads with electromagnetic radiation. Some of his followers reportedly wore metal pots on their heads to block the microwaves.
I heard tinfoil works. Yeah, tinfoil works better.
I was going to say, so that's why people do that?
Mm-hmm. To stop the government from reaching your mind. I do it to block the 5G.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys don't have a tinfoil hat?
I do.
No.
I did make a tinfoil hat for a joke. I think it's still on top of my fridge.
Yeah,
a joke.
See me outside of the podcast. I just sit there at my computer with the hat on while I'm researching. Can't let them know that I'm looking for it. One of the highest cracks in the entire structure is that the canonical story says Bielek approached Nichols after a public talk Nichols gave in 1986. The two men were strangers who had each separately recovered memories of the same project, independent corroboration. But researchers who dug into that found that Bielek appears in the slideshow at that very 1986 talk, and that the two men had reportedly visited Camp Hero together in 1985, the year before the talk where they supposedly first connected as strangers.
Liars.
Mhm.
So, yes, it's completely falling apart.
And it gets worse, because they didn't even agree with each other. At a conference, Stuart Swerdlow reportedly accused Al Bielek to his face of fabricating the Philadelphia experiment. The two argued, and by some accounts, it almost escalated into a physical fight. Supposedly two survivors of the same secret program, and one is calling the other a liar in front of an audience. Bielek himself admitted that Duncan Cameron initially refused to accept the claim that he'd been Bielek's brother in a past life, and the principals couldn't even agree on their own shared backstory. And Bielek's own dates wander all over the map. Future years he claimed to have visited change from telling to telling, and even the date of his supposed memory recovery drifts between 1986 and 1988. And then there's a photograph, which might be the cleanest kill shot of the whole case. On his own website, Bielek posted a photo he identified as Edward Cameron, his true self, the Navy physicist from 1943. Debunkers traced that image, and it came from a Princeton yearbook, and in the yearbook, the photograph is captioned A. Cameron, not E. Not Edward, but a name that starts with A. Bielek's defense, when this was pointed out, is kind of inspiring of how bad it is. He suggested that the government had time traveled back and changed the caption, which means the very technology he's trying to prove is now being used to explain away the evidence that disproves him.
The disproof proves his theory every single time, yes.
It's a great argument.
So the photo that Bielek claims is himself as Edward Cameron is actually from a man named A. Cameron and was allegedly changed by time-traveling government scientists.
Right.
It's actually hilarious that was what he came up with instead of the easy. Oh, there was just a typo, guys.
Yeah,
typo. A and E are relatively close to each other.
Yeah. Well, now we've got to invent the time machine just to go back and watch the man typing that page.
You'd use the chronovisor to go and look. So if Montauk was authored rather than remembered, collaboratively by a handful of people over a stack of paperback books, then we ought to be able to find another example of this exact same process happening somewhere else, out in the open, where we can watch the whole thing assemble. And we can. It is one of the best rabbit holes that the story has. It's documented direct connection back to Montauk that most people don't know about. It is called Ong's Hat. And the legend concerns a supposed commune in the New Jersey Pine Barrens where fringe scientists allegedly built a device called the Egg that let them travel between dimensions. Ong's Hat is now widely credited as the first photo ARG alternate reality game in history. So, augmented reality game. It started with a short story by the writer Peter Lamborn Wilson and then built an outline deliberately as a piece of interactive fiction by a man named Joseph Metheny, writing under a pen name, seeding the story through a fake catalog of rare occult books called the Incunabula Papers. It was, from the start, a thing people made together on purpose, and it was pretended to be a leak. Now, where that ties back, it is documented, not speculative. Peter Moon, Vincent Barbarick, the co-author and publisher of the entire Montauk series, personally contributed to the Incunabula, I can't say this word, Incunabula. Incunabula Papers. So the guy who wrote the books, or helped write the books for Montauk, wrote the story of this game that was allegedly real but purposely made to be fake.
Strange that he is an author writing about something that he's then claiming.
Yeah, I was trying to wrap my head around it.
To be fair, Peter Moon hasn't come out and said that it's true. It was Ed Cameron. Peter Moon was the co-author. Or it was Preston Nichols. Preston Nichols claiming it's true. Mm. Peter Moon was just the co-author and publisher. So I promised I would come back to the fourth bead on the wire. And here it is. Plum Island is where the Montauk legend touches something genuinely disturbing and genuinely real. And then goes a little bit too far past it. The Plum Island Animal Disease Center was established in 1954 on an 840-acre island just off the northeastern tip of Long Island. Its public mission was relatively benign: study infectious foreign animal diseases, develop vaccines for livestock. But declassified records confirm a darker Cold War mandate. Under programs run in part by the U.S. Army Chemical Corps, Plum Island researchers really did study dangerous animal pathogens, foot and mouth disease, African swine fever, and others, with an eye toward weaponizing them to devastate Soviet agriculture in the event of war. That is not conspiracy. That is a documented history of Plum Island. And it gets more specific and more unsettling. Real researchers on Plum Island really did run tick colonies. A scientist named Richard Endress maintained tick nurseries in Lab 257, breeding over 200,000 hard and soft ticks of various species, some collected from as far away as Cameroon, to study how well they could carry African swine fever. And under contracts with the Army's lab at Fort Detrick, Endress ran experiments in the late 1980s using sandflies as another vector for a disease, leishmaniasis. I'm not sure what that one is. Basically, a federal lab a couple miles off of Long Island was deliberately breeding insects and studying how efficiently they could carry sicknesses. There really was major foot and mouth outbreak on the island in 1978 that forced the slaughter of the entire experimental herd. and biosecurity audits have documented other containment failures over the years. So you have a secure government island breeding disease, carrying insects by the hundreds of thousands with a documented history of things going wrong. So, of course, Plum Island got blamed for Lyme disease. And the connection was popularized by John Loftus, a former Justice Department Nazi hunting attorney, in his 1982 book, The Belarus Secret, and expanded by Michael Carroll in his 2004 book, Lab 257. The theory is that Nazi scientists brought over under Operation Paperclip experimented with weaponized ticks, and these ticks were tested near Plum Island, and that infected ticks escaped into the mainland, carried by birds and white-tailed deer that swam in the channel. And it seeded the entire Lyme epidemic, first identified in 1975 in Old Lyme, Connecticut, a town that sits only about 9 to 13 miles from the island. So the geographic coincidence is real. The theory has been disproven, and the way it's disproven is pretty clean. Genomic mapping of the Lyme bacteria shows that it existed in North Africa for tens of thousands of years. Long before Plum Island, Paperclip, the disease has been around for a long time. The actual cause of Lyme's sudden emergence in the 1970s is well understood and more interesting than sabotage, really. New England reforested over the 20th century, deer populations exploded, and deer ticks exploded with them. And the suburbs pushed straight into those new woods, and a naturally occurring ancient bacteria was just simply brought into dense contact with humans. So there's not a real conspiracy behind that. But that brings us to, inevitably, the most photogenic chapter of the whole saga. On July 12, 2008, a young Montauk resident named Jenna Hewitt and two friends were walking the high tide line at Ditch Plains Beach when they came across the bloated, hairless carcass of something they couldn't identify. Hewitt took a single photograph, and on July 23rd, the local paper, that's yesterday, The Independent, ran it under the wonderfully local headline, The Hound of Bonkaville, or Bonacville, joking that maybe it was a mutant escapee from Plum Island, and then the website Gawker picked it up and the Montauk Monster went global. So, you guys want to see the Montauk Monster?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Are you ready?
Yep.
See
The
ya.
Montauk Monster.
Oh, yeah, I remember this
Yeah, I
guy.
remember this picture.
Yeah.
Really? How
Yep.
how have I never seen?
Really?
What do you mean you all remember this picture?
Get
What
with
never
the
seen this?
times,
wormholes do you
Captain.
guys fall down inside
Yeah,
that that's
It's
what you're
really
coming across?
strange looking, right?
I don't know what your for you page looks like, but this is what mine looks like.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not what pops up on my feed.
Look at the
This is-
face. That's like the
Yeah.
craziest.
Yeah, something
It's
like
like
a
a
really
beak.
off.
kind of.
Yeah.
Almost like horns, where the ears, like, kind of resembling the
Yeah.
hand, like, there's no real hands. It's almost like a flipper.
Yeah.
It's,
And then
the,
it looks-
it's the front paw that really throws me off.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is you can't really tell how bloated it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
how long has it been at sea?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
And
like,
what's
is
wrapped
it
around the arm?
It looks like
Like
cloth
cloth, right?
because it was tied up in Montauk and it escaped.
That makes
I don't know why you'd use cloth to restrain the Montauk Monster. So the image is genuinely strange. There's the swollen, hairless body and a face that ends in what looks like a hooked beak and like some impossible bird-animal kind of hybrid. But zoologists and veterinary experts who looked at the photo reached a fast and relatively firm consensus. And they believe that it's a masterclass in how decomposition will fool your eye. The beak isn't a beak. It's a exposed premaxillary and nasal bones of a skull after the soft tissue of the snout and lips has rotted away. The hairlessness is what turbulent sandy saltwater does to fur. That makes sense. And the eerily long clawed fingers are what happens when the skin of a paw shrinks and tightens in the sea. And the teeth, a large lower canine and multi-cuspid molars, match one animal exactly. The Montauk Monster was a water-degraded, decomposing... You take a guess at what this is? What they
Puppy.
say it is?
Puppy. What?
No. I'm going to say like a seal. Or
Some
like
type
a-
of
like a
big old
walrus?
pig or something.
They say it is a water-degraded, decomposing raccoon.
Oh, okay, that's
Ooh.
some bullshit.
All right, I'm not buying that.
What? Show me that
So-
picture again.
Yeah.
That's not a
Yeah.
raccoon.
Yeah, yeah. Can we see that picture next to the raccoon?
How big is this fucking raccoon, dog?
Yeah, no.
I just watched Guardian of the Galaxies. I know what a raccoon looks like.
I'm just saying for comparison, obviously.
Okay. So this little guy.
Aw,
Yeah.
so cute. No.
Ooh, maybe
What? Maybe?
hairless, skins
Let's
bloated.
see.
What about
But look
the
how little
size
the
difference?
hands. I mean, I get being bloated, but ew.
Naked raccoon.
Wow.
Actually, you know what? Now it's
Okay.
looking
Yeah.
a little better.
yep.
A little closer, yeah. Here you go.
Alright.
This one. The face.
Aw.
Yeah.
I
If
mean,
you take
can
out
see
the
it.
snout,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
wow.
Just looks too
Decomposing
big, but
bodies
I guess
fuck
it is
you up.
bloated.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bad Tinder picture.
Now, in fairness, not everyone folded immediately. William Wise, the director of Stony Brook's University Living Marine Resources Institute, looked at the photo and initially pushed back on the raccoon idea. He said that the legs looked too long in proportion to the body, and he wondered whether it might be more like a diseased dog or a coyote that had spent some time in the sea.
See, that's
So
what I
he
saw, a
doesn't-
dog.
That's what I was thinking too, like a dog or coyote. Now, again, didn't claim it was a hybrid monster, but not a raccoon. So the Montauk Monster is not as exciting as it appears to be at first glance. Now, we watched the axe come down at the end of part 1, so let's finally talk about what it was supposedly cutting. The climax of the Montauk story, as Nichols told it, is the night of August 12th, 1983. The emergence of the creature the crew called the Beast from the Id, or just Junior. The trigger phrase, the shape in the corridor, the men chopping the cables, that whole sequence is genuinely a great horror piece. And it's almost, line for line, the plot of a movie from 1956.
Mm.
In the MGM science fiction classic Forbidden Planet, an expedition finds the ruins of an extinct alien civilization called the Krell, who built a vast underground machine that could turn thought directly into physical reality, and who were then annihilated in a single night by monsters from the id. The primal, violent impulses of their own subconscious minds made flesh and set loose by their own machine. The Krell's monster, Montauk's beast, same concept. Same machine, same catastrophe, almost word for word. The Montauk climax didn't come out of a secret base, it came out of the movie. And once you kind of see that, you have the chair, which is a expanded Meg scanner. You have the beast is from a movie, the time tunnel from the physics of wormholes, the ship from a hoaxer's letters, alleged hoaxers. You start to see the whole thing for what it is. And it's not a report, but it's a collage. It's a great, lovingly assembled collage of the 20th century's own anxieties, pasted onto one real, lonely camouflage base at the end of Long Island. We spent this whole time taking the extraordinary claims apart, so we got to talk about what the skeptics believe, starting with the 12 underground levels. The corridor that we descended in part 1, there's a physical argument against them. Long Island isn't bedrock. It is glacial moraine, loose sand, gravel, impermeable glacial till, and the water table at Montauk is shockingly high, typically only 10 to 15 feet below the surface. So to dig a facility 12 levels deep, say 120 feet, Through wet, loose sand, you would have to pump millions of gallons of water out of the ground every single day, continuously, forever, or the whole thing will flood in hours. That kind of pumping would have drained aquifers and collapsed the ground into sinkholes and everything across the island. And the dish that turns to watch you, it's real that visitors report that the AN/FPS 35, the SAGE radar dish, pointed different ways on different days. It's also real that the dish is mechanically dead. The massive bearings in it seized and rusted solid, and its drive motors and copper wiring were stripped out during the 1981 decommissioning. It can't move. So what's actually happening is illusions in all of this. The hiking trails wind through the forest and approach the tower from wildly different angles and elevations. So different that a massive asymmetric dish looks like it's aimed in a new direction every time the trail turns you around. Your own movement projected onto a stationary object by your mind already primed to see the base as something more. Dish isn't moving, you're just kind of circling it without realizing.
I can see that.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
Now, we could talk about how hypnotic regression is circumstantial at best. I think in some cases, like Betty and Barney's, I think it's a lot more credible than in something like Travis Walton's. There's one card the believers still have, and it's real footage, and it deserves to be treated as real footage. In 2017, the History Channel ran a 2-hour special called The Dark Files. And unlike everything else in this saga, it put credentialed outsiders and actual instruments on the ground at Camp Hero. The filmmaker, Christopher Garantano, teamed with a journalist named Steve Voke, and, this is the part that raises it above the usual, a former CIA officer named Barry Eisler. They brought in a geology team with ground-penetrating radar, real equipment run by real specialists, and pointed it at the one question the whole legend turns on. Is there anything under here? And Garantano claimed on camera that they detected something that's not supposed to be there. Reported as 2 large anomalous metal structures beneath the surface. One side, the official engineering blueprints and the Army Corps' own derp FUDs. Remember that one? The derp FUDs?
Oh, yeah. I forget.
I had the remediate the
other day. Is that what's been going around in the lettuce? The derp FUDs?
The derp FUDs.
You can go ahead and edit that out if you like.
He's going to leave it.
It stayed.
So the derp FUDs remediation record shows single and double level tactical structures and nothing more. Not 12 levels, no anomalous complex. On the other side, a ground-penetrating radar anomaly is a real reading on a real instrument captured on film. It could be an old sealed bunker the sealing crews documented. It could be buried tanks or debris from the cleanup. It could be geology. It's probably something boring, but probably something boring does not mean nothing. And an honest skeptic would have to say, could be something. You know, they don't know for sure. You've heard at this point why almost none of this can be true. So the strangest thing of the whole night is that doesn't really matter. The Montauk Project is more alive today than it has ever been, and understanding why is the actual point of this whole story. First, how did it spread? Because on paper, this should have died in a Long Island bookstore. There's a niche paperback from a tiny publisher sold to the UFO convention crowd. That's a footnote. The thing that carried Montauk out of that bookstore and into the bloodstream of American culture has a name, and it broadcast in the dark. Coast to Coast AM. Art Bell's overnight radio show, beamed across the country to truckers and insomniacs and anyone awake at 3 a.m. listening to the radio. Both Al Bielek and Preston Nichols were repeat guests, night after night for years, in that late night register where impossible sounds reasonable because it's dark and you're tired, and the man's voice, Art Bell, was wonderful to listen to. I don't know how much coast to coast you've listened to. They told the story to millions of people who never even looked at the book. Radio did for Montauk what the book never could, gave it a voice in the dark. Start with the biggest cultural fingerprint of all. When two brothers named Matt and Ross Duffer first pitched a certain science fiction series to networks, it wasn't called Stranger Things. It was called Montauk. It was set at Camp Hero on Long Island, and it was designed as a direct fictional adaptation of these exact conspiracies. The mapping is still visible in the finished show, if you know where you're looking. Hawkins National Laboratory is Montauk Air Force Station and its secret sublevels. 11, the psychic child, is the Montauk Boys and Duncan Cameron. The Demogorgon, breaking through from another dimension in the basement, is the Beast. The gate to the Upside Down is the portal supposedly ripped open on August 12, 1983. They moved the setting to Indiana for production reasons and changed the name, but the Duffers have been open about it. Montauk is the foundation of their whole universe the show was built on, which means one of the most popular shows on Earth right now is, at its root, a dramatization of the story we told in part 1. A story that a couple men recovered under hypnosis after reading each other's books. So, that's Montauk. The historical spine of the legend is frankly one of the strongest we've ever put on the show. Camp Hero was real and really disguised as a fishing village. Sage Radar was real. MKUltra was real and its records were really destroyed. Holmesburg and Operation Paperclip are real. Plum Island's bioweapons past was real. And it really did breed ticks by the hundreds of thousands. Tesla's Wardenclyffe was real. That's not conspiracy. That's verified 20th century history. So if we're rating the history, it's pretty high up there. But we don't really like to rate the history. We like to rate the paranormal claims of it all. And the paranormal claim, the time tunnels, the mind control radar, the recovered memories, the beast, the man who says he was born in 1916 and 1927 at the same time, collapses under its own weight. Fiction preceded every eyewitness, and the independent witnesses turn out to have been friends who visited the base together before going public. The photograph is captioned with wrong initials, dead men keep working, the chair is a scanner run backwards, and the beast is a rerun. So, unfortunately, Montauk is probably 98% fake.
The story falls apart, but parts of it are based in something real.
Something happened.
So you take these real things and you don't trust the government and you imagine where they could be today. And
Right.
you have the modern myth, the modern stories.
And then you just have like a handful of people who want to get in on what's happening.
Sure.
And
yeah.
that creates doubt.
The other thing that comes to mind is something is happening, and then there's a false campaign to make it so ridiculous and so obvious that they're actually covering something up, which is not outside of the realm of stuff that hasn't happened before.
I think that's what's happening now with our
documented.
government.
Yeah.
Or, different theory, could all this brain scrambling that's happening when they're resetting their brain be the reason why these people have their stories slightly off? The silver bullet was the, hey, it's word for word scripted based off of a movie that came out before the event, right? Like that's the silver bullet here. Could they have time traveled back to create the movie to create the cover up for everything to make it sound so fake and crazy?
That's a great thing about time travel is you can...
Anything could happen.
Yeah, anything can be covered
could
up.
happen.
But wouldn't that just create a different timeline and not...
Yeah, the timeline that we're
change-
living in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that theory would mean that there is a timeline where everybody knows that it's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every possible reality is real in a different timeline. So there is a reality where this Edward and Duncan Cameron story is 100% true. somewhere. I think
Not this one.
not ours,
No.
not ours. But I do think Montauk, like you guys are saying, is made to sound so ridiculous to cover up all the real shit that they did.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of stuff did go on there. I think the Cameron story is made up to make it sound ridiculous. I think the Beast is made up to make it sound ridiculous. I think the portal to other time, space-time, is exaggerated. I think they did the remote viewing. They did MKUltra. They did all of these other things that we have documents for, and then shredded those documents and all that. And they make everything seem so crazy that the truth gets lost in the crazy.
That's where I land on the story too. And MKUltra was absolutely a real program.
Mm-hmm.
And then they shredded all the documents and it just went away.
Right. Like,
No,
I don't
yeah.
I don't know if it turned into Project Phoenix like they say it did. Like the story claims it
Sure.
turned into Project Phoenix, but there's no doubt that it's still going on in some capacity.
They just probably just moved it.
Yeah, they
Right,
moved
like,
it. They
moved
changed
the
the name.
location.
To HARP.
Yeah. And all of those real things with a little bit of imagination becomes Montauk.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I've never heard a story that is literally so fucking interesting and going in so many different directions, and just the way that they were able to thread every possible conspiracy theory that ever existed into like one thing. Like, I don't know, it's so cool. It's pretty
You
neat.
get Bigfoot and ghosts in there, and we're pretty much covering every
Well-
aspect of the paranormal.
There's a lot of people like interpretations that say the Beast was basically a Bigfoot. It was just a giant hairy
Check.
ape. So
I'm in.
Did it? Now we see ghosts.
it makes me wonder if, like, at its core, Montauk is something that was constructed for people to be able to wrap their heads around the crazy shit the government's doing. That, you know, we have this capacity that we want to understand what's happening or exaggerate it out to a point that we turn it into a fun story to hide from the fact that it's real. And I think that's what happened with Montauk. I think that it got expanded by everyone who came next to kind of just make you feel better about the bad stuff. About the fact that the government's lying to you, about the fact that they're experimenting on their own citizens, about the fact that they're trying all these crazy things. And I think the story just kind of makes people feel better because it's a fun story.
Matt, just one clarifier. How does that make me feel better? It's all true.
If it's clearly not true, then we can discount everything, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to pick it apart. We can say it's all false and we can all go home and not worry about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, and especially the story about the brothers, right? It like really has that emotional connection. I think like just their relationship, and then that reiteration of him always just being like, I'm going to be the anchor for him, right? Like, who doesn't want to have an anchor or have someone be their anchor, you know? So like you immediately connect to that story.
Yeah.
It makes you want it to be real to
Puts a
some
name
extent.
and a face and an emotion to a story.
Yeah.
And Matt's a great writer.
Yeah.
Thank
And I've
you.
heard Sean ask people to be his anchor, so I know that's real.
Hey, now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, fascinating story, Matt, and like well
Thank you.
pieced together. And the monologue in the beginning to all the different theories and linkages across all these stories to the absolute decimation of any of it being real.
We went on quite a journey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted I knew most of Montauk was exaggerated, but then like as I'm getting into like Preston Nichols, like I knew a lot of Bielek's story because I'm a big Philadelphia experiment guy, but I didn't know too much of Preston Nichols and all that. But as I dug more into it and saw how much is just clearly not real, of the story at least, I got really disappointed. I wanted more of it to be real than it was.
Yeah.
I think the real is still pretty out there and crazy. I think there's a lot of real stuff that happened, but it's not as it's more boring than the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucked up and dangerous and like not good, but it's not as exciting as the story.
The real question I think we've got to answer here, Matt, is are you a time jumper brought back to just throw more disinformation? Is that what you are? is that the whole purpose of PD-13?
That's what this is. Purposely sent here to discredit Montauk
Yes.
and throw everyone off the trail.
And that's why you brought us back. Okay, I see this now.
First, I had to create a podcast.
You'll
grind on it for a year.
You'll know it's time when you've been blocked by TikTok 6 times. That is your sign.
It's like the code phrase of the sleeper agent. Appreciate you guys coming to do Montauk. It was long. I didn't really intend to go. What are we, 5 hours total now?
Yeah, pretty close.
But it was fun, and I'm glad you guys came out of your retirement to join me on Montauk. I know we talked about it months ago.
Yeah.
We did.
So
Yeah, Sean was thinking about doing Montauk and was outside of New England, so it's like, it's kind of against our...
If I made Betty and Barney Hill 2.5 hours, like how long would my Montauk? I'm glad you did it.
It'll be a mini series.
Yeah.
Well, shit, this might end up being 3 parts by the time I get the last half of last week and this.
Mhm.
So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Gives
It was
me
a journey. It was a journey.
gives me
Yeah.
some time off when I get a 3-parter. I kind of
There
like
you go, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to write for a week or 2.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Love
dude.
it.
Thanks for having us. This is a blast.
Yeah,
this
is
a lot of
fun
fun.
and killer story. Yeah.
It does make me miss the podcast.
Yeah.
World.
Same.
good.
Same.
I might start
Good.
writing again.
I read a book.
That was you
She
read a
can
book?
read, man.
You read a
This is what we've been taking the time off
Was
doing,
it-
teaching Kathy to read.
Ew.
I've read a book.
I mean, I did.
You've made you've made it pretty far without knowing how. That's
pretty successful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I
It
hope
was-
I inspired you guys to start up again.
I'm having fun.
Maybe.
I'm pretty close.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think I have more
Okay.
fun when I don't have to do a lot of the work.
I get that. I get that.
You know?
Like being a guest on someone, like when I'm a guest with you guys, it's a lot more just kind of relaxing and fun.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to read the story. I just have to listen.
Just
And
react.
then-
and-
Just try to say something funny.
Guys, I appreciate you being on here. I know you're kind of in a weird spot with how you're doing things right now. So Sean, tell us where people can find you, listen to your previous episodes, and what you guys got going on in the future.
Thanks, Matt. And what a pleasure, as always, to be here. Thank you so much for having us. To everyone, we are Weirder After Dark. You can find us on Apple and Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts. As Matt said, we are taking a little summer break, and it's still extending into August and September. We do anticipate dropping some new episodes come probably September.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout. We do Tuesday drops, and we might have a couple surprises over the next month or so. So, Matt, as always, man, it's a pleasure and fantastic storytelling.
It's been fun. Fuck, we're almost at 3 hours. I have 20 more pages.
Holy shit. Man.
No way,
If we
Let me try
did not do
to
9 o'clock starts.
No. No, this one was extra long. Let me try to condense this. Let me see where we have a bunch of
You're insane.
I might need to revisit tomorrow.
Yeah, we might have to do a part 2.
So
Yeah.
But I just wanna
try to
be-
try to
I
say some
wanna-
funny jokes in there.
I want to be a guest on my own podcast, though, guys.
He looks at us.
You are 2/3 of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
2
You
out
notice-
of 3 you are.
Notice how she said on my own podcast.
Not our, not like
Yeah,
yours.
yeah.
We're not even in the room.
She goes like out and about, and she's like, "Yeah, I have a podcast. And, you know,
Yes.
my husband and cousin are on it.
But it's mine. I own it.
Oh God, so good.
Weirder After Dark with Kathy
Yeah.
and friends.
With Kathy and others.
Oh gosh.
That's the one
All
weird
right.
part about being a solo show, though. It's like I have to do everything every time.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. I had trouble doing one story every 3 weeks. You do one every week.
Yeah. It's fun though. It's fun.
Yeah.
So, and I want to quit my job, so it keeps me going.
Well, fingers crossed for you there on
Yeah,
that.
I'll-
Mhm.
I'm in for that.
I'm putting my money if I'm you on Snake.
That
So-
might be the golden ticket right there.
I was telling my wife, I told her today that he started following me. I was like, I might have to go Bigfoot hunting with Snake on our vacation. And she's like, okay.
Yeah.
Just
I was like, you know how
accepts it
big,
now.
like, you know how huge that would be? She's like, no, I get it. Like, if that happens, you gotta go.
She's in, dude.
Remember you were talking about like the red flags earlier? That might
That's
be
a green
like,
flag. That's a green
Yeah,
flag.
no, yeah.
Wait. It's red for who? For Matt?
her.
For her? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For
Yeah.
her, yeah, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
I wanna-
Every time he wants to go camping, he's going like skinwalker hunting, Bigfoot hunting,
Yeah.
falls and smashes his face into a rock.
I hope she's taking a big insurance policy. That's all I'll say. Like,
She
We're going
does.
on vacation to an place called
don't-
Area 51, honey. It's going to be great camping.
There's a big fence, but don't worry. We can just go
Yeah.
around it.
Fine.
They don't care. There's
Yeah.
no
Nope.
one around. We got the night vision goggles. That's all we need.